Greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome back to episode 109 of the Snarp Fangle podcast. Ooh, 91 episodes away from 200. I'm your host, Jake Metzger, who I just wish I had more time to play and energy to play more video games. And my co-host this week is the man whose uncle allegedly works at Valve. Ladies and gentlemen, David Reed.
Well, I didn't want to say, but like...
It's a private company. You don't know who works there, really.
I mean, I didn't want to say, but...
Allegedly.
I mean, we just call him Uncle Gabe.
Uncle Gabe? That's your uncle. Oh, it makes a lot of sense. It makes a lot of sense. All right, anyway. No wonder you're on time with your rent every month. Anyway. And our guest this week, first is our boy who's found his way home. And can Aunt Asha bring him back to the Green Machine's fold? Ladies and gentlemen, Billy Kemp.
Hello.
How are you doing, sir?
Swell, sir. Swell.
On a nice rainy Monday.
So loving the rain.
And the flames, too. But we'll get to that in just a sec, because our other guest this week, he's our man on the inside. He's got the knowledge, he's got the expertise, and he's got the espionage. I mean, why would Tim Cook announce today he's stepping down as CEO from Apple? Ladies and gentlemen, Charles T.
Hello.
How you doing, Chuck?
I'm alive and kicking, and sometimes that's all you can ask for.
Yeah. Well, I heard you had a little snafu. Speaking of flames.
I mean, yeah, they may have involved some running out of fuel, and then lighting a car on fire, and then putting the fire out, and then lighting on fire a second time.
In the rain.
Yes.
In the rain.
Which
no.
is special.
So she ran out of gas.
Yes.
You
which
drove-
is my fault. To be clear.
Yeah,
that
let
was
me
my
just
fault.
take the car. It's full. Sounds like my dad.
All right, I'm not going to say the fuel gauge doesn't work correctly, but it was saying quarter tank.
Dang. So you went and you got her. Like a true
It was 10
husband?
feet outside the door of the house, so it wasn't that far.
Oh, okay.
She literally made it. It's not 10 feet because this is the country, but she literally made it to the neighbor's house. So we hopped in the truck, Billy's truck, and put some fuel in a jerry can, and then drove down there because this isn't the city. So it's
you can
10
do that.
feet.
Yeah,
It's like quarter mile. But then proceeded to incorrectly.
And all these vehicles are legal road worthy, obviously. You know?
Oh, yeah. I live in
totally.
Idaho. I come down here visiting, and my vehicles are completely road legal where they're registered and where I drive them most of the time, which is Idaho.
That's true.
That being said, this is an 85 AMC Eagle, for those of you who know what that is. Beautiful triple blue stock. Blue on blue on blue, man. Hard to find. But my wonderful wife was spraying the engine starter because, of course, we ran out of fuel, and they have a mechanical fuel pump, which means you need to prime it. And rather than showing effort, seeing as I was on the way here, I said, just squirt it with some Go Juice, and we'll go. And I told her to squirt more Go Juice, and I did not do so correctly. And
Lit the air filter on fire.
yes.
Oh my God.
Within the
Inside the
carburetor
carburetor, inside the air cleaner. Assembly.
Yes.
Paper elements burn great when you soak them with ethanol. But you know what's important is the car started and she got home.
Safely.
Yeah, safely.
Yep,
And
yep.
realistically, if you're going to have a fire inside things that are relatively close to designed to having contained fire, is probably a good place to have it,
Yeah.
comparatively.
Better than outside.
Yeah, outside the carburetor, bad. Inside the carburetor, not good either, but it takes more than 5 seconds of fire to...
My favorite part was trying to find a puddle deep enough to dunk the air filter that was currently on fire.
I did just hand it to him and have him walk around with it for a minute. I went, here,
He
go
said,
put this out.
Here, take this and put it in the street. And I'm like, I don't think I should. I'm going to find a puddle. He's like, good idea.
Let's be honest. The street has a lot of potholes. I was sort of thinking,
Yeah,
go
you're
out
like,
the
there's gotta be
street,
one right
throw
next
it in
to
a
us.
pothole.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah,
That's great.
That's par for the course for, that's what happens when you're a mechanic and your wonderful wife tries to help you. And she is extremely good at working on stuff. And I am extremely bad at directions. And so between the two, somewhere she works really hard and I screw it up or in this particular case, fail to clarify my instructions and then mild fire happens. But I also have done that enough times myself, all by myself, that I wasn't excessively worried about it.
Well,
Carburetor fires aren't that big of a deal if the hood's already open.
That's true. That's true. Well,
Finally.
praise God, you're okay.
Thank you.
Really glad and happy you're all right. What a memorable story. But that's crazy.
But we
You know
still
what?
got here.
You still got here. And you
Yeah.
know what? You're not a man until you've done two things in life. One's getting a colonoscopy. Number two is rescue your wife stuck in the rain as she ran out of gas.
Amen.
And if you, the audience, have any stories like that to share with us or any inquiries at all, or what you want to see in that PS6 or Xbox Helix or maybe Steam Deck too, send them on over to snarpfanglepod@gmail.com, or you can just text Jake. All right, gentlemen, we've gathered here today. Thank you for being here, by the way.
Of course.
I'm glad you're
Thank
here.
you
I'm
for
glad you're
having us.
safe. You text me and I'm like, okay, you got to tell me what happened when you guys get back. And there we are. So today, I wanted to start with a quote here because we're talking about the next generation of technology in terms of the video game industry, hardware, consoles, PC hardware, what have you. Mainly just consoles today. But I want to start with this quote that I heard, I believe, and I couldn't tell you where I heard it. It was on a random live stream, but I think that person was quoting someone else. But the quote is this, and it is, you have to prioritize the audience of today, not prioritize the audience of tomorrow. And we'll get into that later when we start talking about Xbox.
That's called marketing.
But it's called marketing, yes. But I think I wanted to take that and start with that just to throw it in your minds and have it in there. Have that nugget of information in there, David. Just keep it in there and toke it away until we get to the Xbox topic. But the first thing I want to talk about today is I was watching this video from Jay's 2 Cents, this PC hardware guy on YouTube. Really great.
Familiar.
Really great, dude.
Yeah.
I actually, funny story. So I went to Disneyland for a trip. But before that, I went to Disneyland a couple years back. And we were walking around downtown Disney. It was a Saturday morning. And I saw him with his daughter walking around.
That's
And
awesome.
he was just following her around as she was like looking at stuff. And I almost went up to him. But of course, the inner male depression prevented me from doing so. But I saw him, but I didn't want to make it creepy. So I'm like, nah, I don't want to do that to him. I know he's a nice guy.
I'm very jealous of his salt and pepper and white hair.
He is so tall, bro.
Is he really?
Yeah,
in
he's
person?
probably 6'8" or something. Like he is
Ooh.
tall.
That's even
my
taller than you.
gosh.
I got to be honest.
Yeah.
As soon as you said he was tall, my first thought is
he as tall
let's
as
see
Billy?
where this goes.
But yeah, I was like, man, that guy's tall. So,
That's
but
like
yeah,
3-4 inches taller than you, even Billy.
Oh yeah.
yeah, he's a tall.
That's
tall
towering
man.
over me.
Yeah, but he had a title of this video was like, I can't wait any longer. Things I must say, and it says not clickbait. It was like talking about some other things regarding, I think, Gamers Nexus and how they cover stuff. But really, it was about talking about passion for creating content. And he had something in there that made me think. He had a whole segment of, hey, if I'm an enthusiast of this, do I have to have a true passion for it to be basically what he's saying is, do I have to have a huge passion for something to be qualified to talk about it or have immense experience or affordability of major things in whatever I'm interested in to talk about it? He compared it to watching Top Gear, where he said, I love cars and I love working on them, but I'm never going to buy like a McLaren or whatever, or Ferrari or what have you. But I love watching that content and it's really interesting. And I took that away because he kind of translated over to PC hardware side of things, which I heavily follow. And it made me think of what it is being an enthusiast, why we are enthusiasts, why we're interested, what we're interested in. But kind of like, for example, I love video games, but I don't play a bunch of video games. I don't think most of us around here really do. We are adults. We have adult things to do. Unfortunately. But does it mean we aren't qualified to talk about that? If I'm into cars, but I don't buy all the latest tech or whatever, or same thing with PC hardware, the latest tech, am I qualified to talk about it? And then also, this video at the same time was kind of transitioned me into the same thought process as while the PS5 got a price hike. And I really want a PS5 at that time when I was looking at it. And I'm like, man, I really want to be part of the discussion, even though it's like 6 years late. It'd be awesome to. But then like there's FOMO and we can get into that. But what did you guys think of this and him talking about that? And because the main thing for me was like, we are enthusiasts, we have interests, we like what we like. But I think it's just interesting there's a huge thing on the internet be like, well, you didn't play this game, so you don't know what you're talking about. Or you didn't grow up with the NES. Shame on you. You don't have a good level discussion of the games industry because you weren't there from the beginning. You know, and people my age, obviously, Didn't grow up with the NES. Some did. But, you know, being 28, I didn't have that. The N64 was my first voyeur into that. But what did you guys think from this? And kind of let's start with the enthusiast kind of thing. What did you think, Charles?
You know, I love this example. Being a car guy myself, and any of you who know me or know of me know that I am unequivocally through and through a car guy. I own roughly 35 vehicles, depending on what you're counting. And I think
maybe 2 are assembled, you know?
Yeah, I'd say there's 2 that run. I lit one on fire earlier, so there's 1.5 that run. But that being said, I shouldn't say that. It is infrequently that I remember around even the amount of money necessary to purchase like a McLaren F1 or something, or a Ferrari. That being said, you couldn't pay me enough to buy one of those either. A great example would be something like a BMW or a Mercedes. They're very shiny. I like to look at them, but you literally could not pay me enough to own another BMW. The way it was designed with expense in mind and with upkeep in mind, and being a let's just call it an extremely well-known internally mechanic. I am not dumb and I know what I'm doing. I wouldn't touch it with a 10-foot pole. If I made my living in it and I knew a lot about Beamers, I would probably be willing to touch one. But as current, having owned a couple, having worked on them, and having been told by the dealer that, no, you can't change that part because some engineer somewhere 40 years ago said so, because of the, what is it they call automotive purity of the vehicle.
Right.
There are certain vehicles that I don't want to own because I don't want to deal with the people that own them. And similarly, that transfers over very well to video games, because the reality is most of us can't own some cars. Heck, a lot of them, they only make 1,000 of. Things like McLaren or high-end Ferraris. There's quite a few that are literally limited to less than 100 manufactured by the company. We can never own them. That doesn't mean we can't go, hey, look, that's pretty.
Yeah, funny thing about the Ferraris, I watched a video, and I don't know if this is true. Correct me if I'm wrong, but this guy was like, well, I'm going to go buy a Ferrari. I got money. Like his ship came in, and he went to go buy one. They said, well, where's your title of ownership for your Ferrari?
Yes.
And they said,
That's
he
true.
said, what are you talking about? He's like, you have to buy a Ferrari secondhand and own one to get the privilege to buy a brand new one.
That is absolutely correct.
Yeah, me neither. And I was like, wait, what? So when you get a new Ferrari, you have to already own a Ferrari.
There are certain models in which that's absolutely, there's a few you can low end, lower models you can own. But if you want the good models, the fun models, you cannot throw money at that problem because they don't care. It's a status symbol. And they want to maintain that status symbol. And you know what? As a company, that's their right and it's their prerogative, and they can go ahead and do that. I don't care. I don't want that car. What I would love is an 88 Lamborghini Countach. In my opinion, that is the pinnacle of car. That being said, I also don't want an 88 Lamborghini Countach because I owned one and they're a hunk of crap.
They look cool, though.
They look really cool, but they're an 80s car. All the windows rattle. None of the panels fit correctly. Every bolt on the car comes off. There's practically no Loctite on anything on the whole dang nabbed vehicle, and none of the plastiforming was correct. If you want a good Lamborghini Countach, go look for an IFG fiberglass replica Countach on a stretched Fiero frame, or even better, a 2-built frame with some sort of Chevy motor in the dang thing. It'll run forever, has the same exact specifications because they're lighter and have more power. The only exception is they don't sound like a Ferrari. But I think, in my opinion, computers and video games and a lot of other categories are exactly like that. Whereas if you actually know a lot about it, you kind of start becoming jaded to some extent against some of the high-end stuff. And therefore, limiting people talking about it to only those who are able to actually own it is somewhat ludicrous. Let me give you an example. My last computer I owned for 10 years, and I was playing games on epic graphics setting up until like 4 years ago.
Dang.
I bought a computer with an i9900 in it because I had a Devil's Lake chip and I went to a Coffee Lake. Wait, that might be backwards.
Devil's Lake was later.
Thank you. But the reason being that I was overclocked to 5 gigahertz on a quad core stable on air because I'm cheap. And so I looked up which parts to buy and what are going to work.
Holy crap, on air?
I still have that. Now I'm now running on an i9-9900 overclocking with an 8-core to just over 5. Usually I average about 5.2 when playing a video game, which is not the world's fastest chip, but it's respectable.
Yeah.
And I run an Radeon 6900 XT. It's older. It's significantly less expensive, but Billy over here has a nice custom built computer that he bought off someone, all fancy like and shiny, and my graphics beat his in most settings because I know enough about the computer to know what's actually going to work. And so
Mine
from
was a pre-built.
yeah, exactly. And so from a reviewing standpoint, I think, because he mentioned reviewing those videos as well. From a review standpoint, I think a lot of the discussion depends on why you're talking about it and what you're talking about. If you're reviewing going, this is the best dang thing you can buy, you kind of have to be able to buy it. But also if you're reviewing to say this is the best value and you're still pointing to the most expensive thing you can buy, then I'm going to call BS on that because that's not how most of the stuff works. I like the joke from Tron personally in regards to the Flynn OS. We put a 12 on the box.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yep. Yeah.
Looking at you, Macintosh.
Yeah. Well, David, what do you take away from this discussion? I also don't want to turn this into some like classism thing. I'm not saying that's where you're headed,
No,
Charles.
yeah, no.
But if you are
touches on
financially,
that.
it touches
You
on
want
it.
it or not.
If you are financially capable to buy the latest and greatest, I don't think there's any shame in that.
No.
Do what you want with your money.
If that's what you want to
It's your
do,
money,
you go for it. It's when you start
you
judging
know.
other people.
But when you judge other people, that's, I think, when, like you said, when there's issues.
I did that thing, but you can't do that thing because you don't have enough money to do that
Yeah.
thing. And I look at that and I go, you're a couple hundred years late there, buddy.
But David, what do you take away from all this?
I'm gonna be honest. I've never watched that guy before, and when I watched that clip of the video, I thought, man, what a whiner. That was
I could see that,
was
yeah.
my first, because I didn't actually watch the video all the way through. I just tapped on the link in the doc, and it took me right
you
to
to the
the
segment.
timestamp.
To be honest, I also did the exact same thing. I used to watch some of his stuff. I am one of those people that floated away from watching his stuff once he started getting more, I'm going to call it culturally involved and less hardware involved.
I can see that.
I floated away from it, and same thing. I clicked the link on the doc, watched the sections that were applicable, and went, I think I've seen enough of this guy, and went back to watching whatever. Completely agree with you, Dave.
But yeah, so that was my first thought. And then I don't know him or know anything about him. So some of the words he was saying was like, is this guy one of those like dumb leftists who think that everything boils down to class struggle or whatever? But that was just my initial impressions in my extremely cynical over political mind that I have. But yeah, I feel like he did make a good point about it. It's like, if you like something and it brings you joy, then that's what you got to talk about. That's what you got to pursue. And you can't let people's opinions of whether or not it's quote unquote appropriate to do so, given, the financial climate of the day. You can't let people's opinions on that deter you from passionately pursuing the things that you're interested in.
How about you, Billy?
I kind of think that it comes down to like the age-old debate about like reviewing video games and how long you need to play the video game to be able to review it. You mentioned reviewing games and reviewing things. And I think it comes down to, you said that we're all adults and we're unfortunately busy and stuff. And if you're passionate about something and you don't get to play it as much, it's like, the difference between a kid that lives at home and can grind for hours on COD and just obliterate you compared to someone who gets to play for 30 minutes after the kids are put down.
Yeah.
I think that each party should be able to still talk about it, whereas this person might be looking at playthroughs and the best stats and how to peek around corners and pre-shoot and stuff. I'm going back to my time with Siege, Rainbow Six Siege. I did that. But, then I got a life. But
Debatable.
But, each person, I think, still has a valid argument. And it's because it's two different perspectives on the same thing. Like someone who's just learning how to play guitar still has the ability to talk about it. And if you don't talk about it, how are you supposed to learn about it?
I think the key there is clarity in what you're talking about as far as being clear with what your intention is, if that
Yeah.
makes any sense. If I reword that to make slightly more sense. If you're coming at it from the perspective of someone who's played 1,000 hours of a game and you're going, I've played 1,000 hours, here's my opinion, that's cool. And if you're coming at it as someone who's played 30 minutes a night for a week and have maybe 100 hours or heck 50 hours, something like that, and you go, hey, I have 50 hours in, as long as you're not coming in going, I have played this game its entirety, having only played 10 minutes, I think that's really where I'm going to call it, in my opinion, the origin of the thought process of the complaint is, well, that guy didn't play it enough, so he doesn't know what he's talking about. And I think that's kind of where I'm going to call it a miscommunication on the grander scale starts getting in there. You know, if you're clear about whether or not you played it, or at least your intent, like I don't play games for the same reason Billy does. Billy 100% things. I don't think I have ever 100%ed a game in my entire life, and that includes games that I have both coded on and been paid.
I try.
Yeah,
what were those games, by the way?
I think it was Assassin's Creed, the second one.
Dang, you got the feathers from what I hear.
Yes, I did.
Yeah.
That took forever, and I may or may not have had to cheat to get him. But to me, it was just like I just need to get this done. And then
see, that's not why I play.
And then Halo 3.
Oh wow, dang! All the achievements.
All achievements.
Yeah.
Dang.
Which is why I say he 100% things, because he occasionally picks a game, or he'll go through and go, I want to mostly finish everything in my library. I have over 300 games in my library. I don't think I could do that this year.
No.
Just not.
Hopefully in your lifetime. But we'll see.
Exactly. And honestly, I don't have interest to finish most of the games because that's not the style of play. I play them until they're not fun anymore. And the reality is a lot of games have like an end part where you hit and it's like, okay, now grind for feathers for 14 hours. And I'm like,
Yeah, and it's interesting. So there's a couple things there I want to pick out of what you guys said is that last thing you said about, grind for however long it is. I think God of War Ragnarok, what I recently played, is a great example of that.
Yes.
Oh my
I
God,
played
the Valkyries.
the Valkyries, but it's interesting because I was playing that game and I'm like, I want to 100% this. And I went through and I 100% of the game pretty much. I think there's a couple armors I didn't get. And then I did the DLC. But as I'm going through it, I'm kind of hate playing it because I want to finish the last Valkyrie. And I'm like, I know the way, and I was just thinking about the way they designed it. I'm like, this is so maddening, the way they designed this to, like, the challenge of fighting that last Valkyrie in Ragnarok. And I kind of just hated finishing that game because, I'm an adult. I only have so much time. And, it was like, yes, it's good to add value to your game, but does it sacrifice the vision of the game?
Value being the key word there.
Yeah, like
The problem with Ubisoft.
you can add as much value in quotes to your game if you want, but is it going to sacrifice in a few departments such as quality, vision, and what makes sense for the game? And that's what I kind of want to transition to because going back to kind of like the hardware kind of side of things, I really wanted to get a PS5 in the last couple months or so, especially with my algorithm and the internet yelling at me saying, the price is going to go up. Now's the time to buy. Do it now.
Panic. Do it
Yeah,
now.
you better buy. And so,
Act now, don't be late.
and we kind of touched on this, I think, last week with about our Mr. Beast versus Mr. Rogers episode we did last week, where we discussed about the FOMO and the algorithm influencing you.
Yeah.
And we kind of discussed that, but now it's in the sense of I had all these people that I was following who also do video game news and play games for a living. And they were saying, no, this is the time to do it if you want to do it.
Yeah.
Like this is your last chance basically before the price goes up. Now a disc version of a PS5 is $650, which is kind of crazy. Now I could have gone on Facebook Marketplace and I had an opportunity to do that, to purchase a used console for like $200, $250, $300. I could have done it. But financially, I had other things I had to worry about. Yeah, it's like $200 to $300, but that's $200 to $300 that I was going to be out of. And I had to look at it realistically. In my own situation, I was like, all right, Jake, I got like 3 games I want to play. Intergalactic when that eventually comes out, Astrobot, and Wolverine this fall. But am I going to even buy those right away? Like I'll get Astrobot and Intergalactic for sure, but am I going to want to play Wolverine? And I'm not a GTA 6 guy, so I'm not a GTA guy in general, so I'm not going to play that. So like, what
I
do
like how
do?
you assume it's definitely coming out still.
I think it's definitely.
I mean, it will
we can talk about that
eventually,
later, but
Eventually.
But like, I had to look at it realistically and for my own situation, and I decided not to pull the plug.
Mhm.
Also, I'm kind of glad I didn't because I could just wait for the PS6, and that'll definitely play all the PS5 games.
Yeah,
David,
he's going to take a page from my book because I bought an Xbox 360 to initially just play Xbox games. And then I also bought a Nintendo DS to initially just play Game Boy Advance games.
Now I'm going to buy a PS6 to just play PS5 games.
And you know what? That is my favorite way to do it. And that's why my computer was updated so sparsely, as I waited until something was actually coming out that my computer would fall on its face playing, and then upgraded to whatever the best that I could get in that moment of time was. And then I sit on that computer for literally 10 or 15 years, depending on it, until it finally happens again. And I play games like Star Citizen a lot, which is well known for murdering computers. I mean, that was their whole excuse, and we'll not get into that one. But I play some pretty high-end games on that one. And honestly, I think the only reason I don't is I'm not like a huge ray tracing guy. I just don't find it that much different. So I don't, and I play a lot of racing games and things like that where it makes a difference, but not a huge difference. I spent all my money on the fact that I have like a Thrustmaster control module and everything. And yeah, I have all the fancy hoo-ha that attaches to the computer more so. Yeah. You know, and I think that that's a good part of marketing too. And as someone who deals in marketing, there is a big push of that's why backwards compatibility exists. And that's also why when they tell you this is your last chance to get it at this price, one thing that a lot of people don't take into consideration is that is a legal statement. It is your last chance to get it at that price. They cannot claim that without the intent to not do that price again.
Yeah.
What they don't have to do is tell you which direction the price is going.
Yeah, and knowing a lot of stuff from like the Moore's Law is dead kind of guy that we'll talk about in time on this podcast, but a lot of things that he has said where these companies have, like Sony, has enough RAM for all of this for the next year probably, but they're going to raise the price anyway. There's also a potential of a world war happening right now and oil prices and tariffs. So there's also that. That's probably why they raised the price. But I just think it's interesting that like the last couple of weeks, I was kind of just learning about that. Like, yeah, I just am not in a position to purchase that right now, and I'm not going to do it. And there was a lot of freedom, I think, that I got in that choice, and I was really glad I did. Going back to what you kind of said, Billy, was, you know, when you're a kid, you have all this time.
Yeah.
And when adult, you don't. Over spring break, I played, because I work in education, over spring break, I had the opportunity to play through Doom the Dark Ages, and it was so great to just sit down and play it. But as an adult, there's a thing where I'm like, I've been playing this for like 2 hours. I don't know if I want to keep playing this or go do something else. Maybe it's just my brain or ADHD or ADD or whatever. But also there's the thing of I only got one game done and I felt like I didn't get enough done. Like that kind of thing. Like as a kid, and I wasn't really a kid when this came out, but I got stupid good at Fortnite and invested a couple thousand hours into that game over the course of like 7 or 8 years. Right. And even going back now, it's like riding an old bike. But even though I uninstalled it last year and good riddance for me personally. But anyway, but I had that time to invest in it. And then I see like my nieces and mostly nephews invest like hundreds of hours into Marvel Rivals. Yeah. And I'm like, yeah, have your fun. That's cool. But I'm like, there's so many good experiences out there. Experience them now before you don't have time. Yeah. Is how I look at that. Right. So it's just kind of interesting. So.
Yeah, I was fortunate enough to get close to launch, because you just couldn't because of scalpers because of the internet.
Yeah.
That wasn't a thing.
You told us that story. That was cool.
Yeah, I had a friend who worked at GameStop. Fortunately, there was like, hey, there's a drop.
I'm confusing with the Xbox One and PS4 store.
Oh yeah,
my bad.
So for PS5,
you're talking about PS5 though.
Yeah, for PS5, I had a friend that worked at GameStop. Was like, hey, we have another drop coming. And I was able to finally show. It was in the middle of the week. I actually ended up having I said I had a DMV appointment.
Dude, that's awesome.
And I went into GameStop.
You bought Gran Turismo?
And I bought my PS5 with the disc version, and it was only because of that. But they were so hard to find, and
and
you paid for that too.
And I did. And it was about $150 overpriced.
Whoa.
But the crazy part is that like, especially on
That's how much it
PS5.
costs right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's. I was
And
just-
in
I was
fact,
like,
that
price.
that's costing you at that time less in terms of that 2020 money than it is in 2026 money.
Isn't that crazy?
That's part of it too. The price raise is, it's always interesting to me because the valuation difference, right? So you've got inflation, which is a whole nother ball game, and they tend to blame things on inflation. And if you know anything about like gas prices, because you talked about that momentarily, about gas prices affecting things, you're very aware what I'm talking about when I say there's a double raise there, one when they leave and one when they get here. And if you look, my favorite thing to do is look at the companies screaming foul about how they can't afford something and see what their profit margin comparison for the last couple of years were, because I bet they didn't lose money on their complaint that they couldn't afford it. And that's really, it's a matter of corporate greed, and that's what sets their price line to some extent. And that's where I'm so glad that the company that I am now mostly, at least partially in charge of, mostly in charge of the operations of, we don't do that. And that's specifically because of problems like that. This whole discussion is because you can't afford the dang thing. And the reality is they could probably make it affordable and still make a profit. But that always, as they always say, that comes out of someone's pocket. Well, I hate to break it to you guys, but if you haven't bought the item yet, the pocket it comes out of is your own.
Yeah, I think the switch to Moore's Law is dead in analysis. It cost Nintendo, I think, like $350 to manufacture it.
Oof.
Like at that time, like in 2023, 2024, I think. And he said, yeah, they could price it at $400 and get away with it.
Yeah.
And still make a profit.
Well, and that would
now
be,
it's $450.
I would assume that he also doesn't have the connections that they have.
Wait,
And also doesn't have, because the reality is as a company scales, your cost factor goes down exponentially. Like the difference between making 100 and making 1,000 is like a
Correct.
200%.
No, he-
Well, also, yeah, Moore's Law is dead.
He takes that into account.
That guy
Does he?
is
Okay.
he's pretty well
with that.
intimately familiar with how that sort of stuff works from the videos I've watched.
Based
of
on what I
his.
watched, it seemed like he was. I just wanted to be very clear that we do not know the deals they get.
Yeah, we
and
don't
when
know.
they go,
They might
I am
get a
definitely
really-
buying 100 million of these from you over
Yeah.
the next 5 years. It does make a difference.
Yeah.
I also think with in correspondence with like, you know, consoles specifically, if I'm not mistaken, for the longest time, like Xbox, especially Xbox, wasn't making any profit on the hardware themselves. It was first party titles.
Originally, yeah.
Originally, it was the games that sold the consoles, but now that we're moving towards a more computer based and everyone's trying to get more towards that PC, you know, takeover, there's not console sellers anymore, and people aren't buying. You know what I mean? There's not a lot of first party games to sell the console. So like when you said like, oh, I'll just skip to the PS6, honestly, and I've watched multiple reviewers say the PS6 age, or the I don't know what the word is for it, but the generation is one of the most forgettable generations there's been, because the leap in technology was, you know, minuscule with like what games you actually got. Like you look at the PS4 was like God of War, and, you know, Uncharted 4, Ghost, Ghost of Tsushima, which was an amazing game, by the way. I love that game. Anyways, I haven't played the second one just because I don't really play my console right now, but
I hear it's
like-
even better.
yeah, I know. I've heard. Yeah, and there wasn't a lot of games that like define this generation. A lot of it was multi-gen, you know, gen or multi-console games that came out that were more like battle royale takeovers and and stuff like that. And there's like a lot of discussions going on, like is single player games console sellers.
Also, this generation of games seems to be like worse than the previous generation.
Yeah.
Like there's like you know, you have the new consoles are more powerful than the last generation consoles, but a lot of games nowadays look worse than PS4 generation games did.
Oh, yeah.
Like Red Dead Redemption 2 is one of the most beautiful games I've ever seen. And
to this day.
Like PS5 games for the most part look worse.
Yeah.
You know, it was so funny you say that. So I was watching The Irishman the other night, the one with its, you know, Robert De Niro, Joe Pesci, Scorsese movie. He brought, you know, his crew back to do his mobster film. This was 2019. This was a year before Last of Us Part 2. I swear to God, Last of Us Part 2, and also context, this movie digitally de-ages Pacino De Niro and Joe Pesci.
Yeah.
So like there's times where they look like they're 30 and then when they're 60. So it's like a weird,
Yeah.
almost like, what's that term? Not the
Uncanny valley.
Uncanny valley. It
Yeah.
looks weird. You get used to it really quickly when you watch it. But dude, when I was like just skipping through it, just make sure the file went through, I'm looking at it and I'm like, oh my God, this looks like Last of Us Part 2 faces look almost better than this.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I know it's a year after, but they were working on them at the same time.
Yeah.
Like, I'm like, what in the, well, that's crazy.
Like it was like the Davy Jones from
Oh,
Pirates
yeah,
of the
heck
Caribbean
yeah.
too.
Yeah.
Like to this day, people are like, "How did you
How
make
did they do
Davy
that?
Jones look so incredible?"
And then you look at the mocap footage of like that and like Gollum at the time, you're like, how?
Andy Serkis.
How
Yeah.
did they do that?
Yeah.
You know, what's interesting to me, because you mentioned it, so side anecdote, but you know that there's a rule for that, for the size of semiconductors having and it resulting in the price going down. It's called Moore's Law. That's actually what it means. It's the rule that every year that surpasses the size of the superconductors will half, and then the cost will quarter. There's math involved. There's a lot of math involved, but and I think that the name of his channel denotes exactly that issue, that as the technology is getting better, we've hit the point where the physical chip
Incremental.
is getting smaller, but also the way it's processed hasn't, 8-bit, hasn't
Yeah.
processed, hasn't changed. And because of that, the edge of that technology, or the edge of the perceivable difference of the decrease in size, doesn't scale correctly anymore. Smaller does not necessarily mean faster and better anymore, whereas for a long time it did. And there's I forgot, there's another law. Tom Scott does a wonderful video on this 5 years ago, talking about how AI is going to be the next big thing. And he talks about what is effectively a Brocchiestocone curve of technology. It goes up at a nice swoop, but then it stops for a minute.
Yep.
And then it goes up at a nice swoop and it stops for a minute. And we are at the base of the next swing up again. So
Yeah.
whatever the next thing is, it's probably going to hit pretty hard.
AI is going to be the spear front of that.
Definitely.
Yeah, and I mean, when we look, and we'll talk about it soon too, with the size of RAM that some of these next gen consoles is going to have to compensate for AI usage. But David, what you said kind of stood out to me. You said that this generation is worse, and I agree.
Yeah.
To a certain extent, I do agree with you, but I think it's important to remember some things. Number one, this whole industry has had massive consolidation and layoffs of a lot of the talent. I mean, just recently, as of this recording, Marvel has like laid off most of their visual effects department, and people who've been working through phases 1 through 4 of the MCU the last 20 years are now gone. That talent is gone from Marvel. So the games industry has been through a tumultuous firing of a lot of talent, mostly, redundant stuff, but definitely a lot of good talent that is not going to come back to the industry, or they're in the industry, but they're doing indie games.
Well,
Yeah.
and
Like,
you
look-
lose
The rise of indie games right now.
Oh man,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
crazy good.
Yeah.
What were you saying,
you
Charles?
lose the problem is you've got this opinion that AI can do the same thing, or that other people can do the same thing for the same way. And what you lose, though, when you get rid of people that have been doing it that long, that result in it looking bad, isn't even the process or the technical aspect of doing it. It's something called institutional knowledge.
Yep. That's
which
right.
is the thing you learn along the way, that are the tips and tricks of the trade, so to speak. And when you can people that have been doing this for their entire life, with them go that knowledge. And the new people don't know it. There's no school that teaches you tips and tricks of the trade. And the number of things I've learned just being a redneck and poking around with things far outweighs the number of things I learned at WyoTech or any other college or school or any of the professional tech school I went through, or HVAC training or anything else. Every single time I've done a new job field, a new career field, the things you learn in the field are way more important and way more valuable towards your end product quality. And with those layoffs of industry veterans goes the institutional knowledge. And we are now seeing side effects of that institutional knowledge being gone. And it's not even just, that is a little bit of a broader topic, because it's not just the video games and related things that are seeing that. It's the physical designs of the chips aren't as good. And again, dealing with this daily right now, the chips aren't as good as they used to be physically. The quality's not there because they don't know what they're doing. And it's very obvious. And that's why some of the older chips are more expensive now.
Speaking of institutional knowledge, just to go to Sony's side for a little bit, there was a report that happened, I believe it was late 2023, where this individual named Connie Booth was led out of Sony Productions or Sony Interactive. And she was somebody who was a producer, a main producer on the Uncharted trilogy, Jack and Daxter, The Last of Us, Astrobot, Infamous, all this kind of like the Sony mainstays, the big AAA story games she was a producer of, and she was let go. And the reports say that she was let out of the office by security.
Oh, wow.
So they got rid of her, and Jim Ryan then disappeared that year to retire. His stay is a different discussion, but it was interesting because after that, you had Herman Holtz from Guerrilla and the other guy who's now the CEO come in and really, and this is a huge discussion in the Sacred Symbols podcast right now, is the tastemakers are gone.
Yeah.
The people who, and Shuhei Yoshida is now gone too. So that's another person as well. People who greenlit stuff, knew what to believe in and knew how to produce it and when to cut things. Strategically.
That's
a great example of institutional knowledge because Shuei's been there since the beginning of PlayStation. Yeah. Connie Booth was there, I believe, since the mid-90s, basically beginning of PlayStation as well. And now they're gone, whether it be a power struggle or they're forced out. And now we're kind of seeing the repercussions of that. You have stuff that was greenlit by Shuhei, like Astrobot, Ghost of Yote, other stuff like that. But now we're starting to get to the next generation of what has been greenlit. You saw Concord, of course. That was Herman Holtz's little baby. And a couple other things that Sony's kind of floundered on. And that's kind of come and bit them in the butt. So it's like they better get their stuff together, and they're really lucky they're on top now, because if they weren't, that man, it'd be like PS3 all over again.
Well, and it's the same thing with politics or any other situation in which you replace a management. There's always a delay between when you replace it and when the actual effect wears off, because any good manager is running months ahead of where they're actually sitting. And so because of that, all the stuff that the new person does, about 90% of the time, they either can all the progress stuff that's being worked on, or they sit there and pretend like, because their name is now on the final page, that they did all the things.
Yeah.
And so it can take a couple of years, sometimes longer, to see the effects of those sorts of changes in management. And that's absolutely true when it comes to video games and hardware development, because the reality is it takes an extremely, I'm going to call it institutionalized knowledge about whatever the thing that you make decisions on in order to accurately predict what is and isn't going to work. And that's why production is such a high-paying job, is knowing what is and isn't going to work. There's an art form to it that can't be taught. There's a certain amount of gut that goes into it.
And also, like, it's a funny example, like Shuhei Yoshida, we brought him up here, but also he's had some stinkers as well. Like everybody has stinkers. It's not like these people are perfect, right?
Yeah.
So it takes time, and you have this knowledge, but you might not always make the right calls. Like, I think he said, like, he played God of War 2018, right? But it was back in 2016. He played it, and he's like, this is really rough, guys. And this stinks. Like, he was really rough with them. He's like, you better really work hard at this. And they did. And I think that gave him the motivation to make one of the greater games of that generation.
Yes, absolutely.
But you got to be honest, because what if he didn't give that feedback? You know? So I think we'll just transition to the Microsoft stuff now. But before we get to the Microsoft stuff, this podcast is the first podcast from the Snarp Fangle network that is sponsored. Can you believe it, David?
Sponsored content?
I can't believe it.
On this channel?
I can't believe it.
This portion of the podcast sponsored by Townley Solutions. Townley Solutions is creating a new smartwatch, the Model 1, a new type of smart device designed not to interfere. Available with features like GPS capabilities, hydrodefensive shielding, pedometer, and solar charging that even works inside most places, you no longer have to constantly worry about charge or even owning a charger. The TS1 has a streamlined, out-of-the-way form factor with a comparatively large display, so you can quickly and easily decide how important notifications actually are. Help yourself break the bad habit of too much screen time and let what's important in life reclaim your attention. The TS1. Find yours on Patreon now or soon to be on Kickstarter. Also available for more information, townleysolutions.com.
All right, so I have a couple questions about that. Just two questions. Number one, when I swipe my notifications, is it up, down, or left, right?
It's click the button.
There's a button.
Oh, yeah. Well, see, people like buttons. people as me in this case.
I like buttons.
I like buttons.
I like to
like
push
pressing.
I
buttons.
am a button fan.
Yes, one could argue, David, you like to push buttons. We have optioned to go with a non-touch screen, mostly because of all the number of times that people like me bang my watch on things and do things therein, delete notifications or whatever else. Now, we have the option of putting a touch screen on it, and that's still available if there's like a public outcry amongst the people who are on the Kickstarter when it launches here in about 3 weeks or so. I believe May the 4th is the current date, but don't quote me on that yet. Check out townleysolutions.com to be sure. But we wanted to get away from the touch screen, partially because touch screens in themselves tend to get very dirty. And again, I'm a mechanic, so there's a lot of situations where a touch screen just doesn't work quite right. Cold, you're too hot, you're too sweaty, you're not sweaty enough, I don't know, what have you. Push buttons tend to just work. And in this case, particularly, the entirety of the smartwatch is encased inside of a little envelope of TPU, which happens to be the stuff that the protective film that's on the front of cars are made out of. So this is really hardy stuff, and it's what they call self-healing, and it's a non-skin irritant, although it is recommended you put it in a case. And because of that, that would also affect any touch screen. Now, again, screen protectors are also made out of that same material, so it would technically work, but we opted for buttons just to have an absolutely watertight seal all the way around it. The dang thing floats, like I said.
That's pretty interesting. So you can go to their Patreon. It's, I think, patreon.com/TownleySolutionsCO. And you can, of course, join for free, but the membership is also there as an option. And so what's the main point of this watch? Because it's mainly to kind of to what? To kind of make you use the technology instead of be distracted by it?
There's a couple main points. The main one we're focusing on right now is just excessive screen time is a problem for a lot of people. And when you have something like a really nice display smartwatch, you have a tendency to get sucked into it, or it doesn't give you the necessary information. You end up back on your phone anyway, and then you're scrolling, and you're scrolling, and you're scrolling.
Doom scroll,
That's
scrolling, scrolling.
Scroll.
Yeah.
And so that is a big factor of it. In fact, currently the screen that we're using is what they would call e-ink. It is not e-ink brand, only because they didn't want to give us the discount we wanted. And honestly, I can't pronounce the word that means e-ink, so I'm just going to call it, it's electro something ferratic something display. Really fancy. Basically, it means it's an always-on display in the same fashion as a Kindle or something else would have. So because of that, if a notification pops up, it's just there unless you tell it to not be there. And so it's far less intrusive. And of course, you have the option if you want to make it bing and vibrate and do whatever else. But as a general, it just sits there so you can check it. And it's got a significantly larger screen. It's about twice the size on the main model of a normal smartwatch without actually being twice the bulk. The whole thing weighs less than an ounce right now.
And it's basically like a strip that wraps around your...
It is a strip that wraps around. There's a little bit of a snap bracelet action to it, in fact, and some magnetic clasp to hold it in place. And we're looking at, right now, actually, we're looking at getting different cases designed for it, because it turns out when you have a mechanic, an engineer, and our spouses and a programmer designing stuff, it looks like a mechanic, an engineer, and a programmer designed something. So we have some really cool rectangles, very shiny, completely square rectangles. And so we looked at that and went, you know, we should find someone with some art skill. And we haven't really got a lot of art skill going on. So we hope to make it look less like some squares, and we're aware of our fallacies. And the idea is to try to launch something. And the second part is the price point. We're shooting for well below $200.
Nice.
Per out the door delivered. And again, never needing a charger. That was a big complaint that the founder of the company, Townley, Caleb Townley, actually had, was he doesn't like smartwatches because they die so quickly and they have to be charged every day. And this uses
I have noticed that.
Yeah, every day. It's frustrating. And the solar panel, this is an anamorphous solar panel, which is the same type you would find on calculators, which means it works inside.
So just a light bulb can charge it.
Absolutely. And in fact,
Like can your body heat charge it?
No, body heat can't, but if you're standing inside or outside in a location where a calculator would run, and of course calculators are well known for just working all the time. And so the plan is keep it simple. Don't overdo it with a bunch of accessories that are unnecessary or a bunch of features 90% of people don't use. It has almost all the normal smartwatch features, because honestly, it was less expensive for us to buy parts with them all built in. But so it's a really interesting piece of technology, and I'm really excited about getting it out there. This is the first, well, it's the first sponsorship on a podcast or similar that we're doing. We are doing the runs of all the local tech fairs, and we'll be heading down to Frisco and up to Seattle and down to San Jose and all those wonderful things where we hope to have booths. But yeah, it's between the fact that it weighs less than an ounce, and that's all in with the case on it right now.
Yeah, and I just hope that this streamlined, out of the way form factor watch kind of takes off, because I think we want people to break bad habits instead of start them.
Exactly, and
giving people bad habits is good for money.
Yes,
but we're interested in bettering people's lives.
And there's a saying that's written above the board of our lab, and it just says, "Any profit's a profit." Because if we covered our expenses and we make $1 per watch, we've made a profit. And we're not looking at being millionaires. We're looking at getting stuff out there that can help people. Yeah. And so if you look at your smartwatch, if you're already wearing one, if you look at the band that's on it, most bands are between 3 and 5 millimeters. That band is the thickness of the watch. And in fact, I'm wearing a Samsung smartwatch right now. The band on my smartwatch weighs more than that complete smartwatch and is thicker.
Oh, dang. That's cool.
Crazy. Anyway.
Yeah. If you guys are interested, go to patreon.com/TownleySolutionsCO. And you can also go to their website, townleysolutions.com.
And thanks again for letting us sponsor.
The Dr. Pepper. I just ran out, so it's good to have some more Dr. Pepper around here.
A 24-pack.
24-pack of Dr. Pepper.
I don't know. A 24-pack of Coca-Cola only lasts me like a week and a half.
God, you drink way too much. No, he's not even joking. You know what? Honestly, he might be exaggerating, and I don't
David went through one of those last week. I see the Baja Blast pack down there on the floor.
Hey, there's water in there somewhere.
There's water in there, so it's carbonated. It's fine.
Hey, they use water. You know what?
They use a 12-pack in 2 days. I'm very sure that a 24-pack will not last a week.
Dang, boy.
That's why I have to drink Coke Zero.
Yes. Yes.
Zero sugar. The amount of purified water they have to use for those sodas,
That's right up there with my coffee is mostly water argument that I'm very sure I've lost.
It doesn't dehydrate you.
I'm behind that argument, man.
All right, boys, let's get into it. Xbox. Last time you guys were on, we talked about Xbox.
Got a Fallout shirt.
What is the current state of Microsoft gaming? The quote we had earlier, we said, you have to prioritize the audience of today, not prioritize the audience of tomorrow. And it's funny I say that because we're talking about the future, the next generation, the expectations we might have. Where's Xbox right now? Well, Xbox is kind of in a dire strait. They raised Game Pass prices, got a bunch of backlash.
I canceled mine because of that.
I don't blame you. And then we also had leadership change with Phil Spencer got kicked out, and we have no idea where Sarah Bond is, who was head of Microsoft Gaming, but now she is completely out as well. Of all people, the Booty got promoted. Matt Booty himself, the guy who brought Minecraft to where it is today, got promoted at Microsoft, along with a new leadership change, new CEO, Asha Sharma, who was previously, I believe, at Cash App and a few other places, is now head of Xbox. It seems like a little good person to Mr. Satya Nadella, also known as Salty Nutella, as I like to call him. So this is an Xbox, that whole marketing phase as well, along with the the marketing phase that happened that said, this is an Xbox, which is your tablet, your phone, your TV, whatever, just get a controller. That's scrubbed from the internet. That's completely gone.
Yeah.
So you have that. And
I noticed he said that. I went and Googled it after that because I got to be honest, I don't watch news. News is not a thing that I do. Even game news, I just wait for it to appear within my friend group through people like you, and then I find out about it. I went and Googled it because I was like, well, that was one of the main reasons I was looking at it. Yeah, it's gone. Absolutely scrubbed.
Absolutely scrubbed, dude. And then we also had, after this whole leadership change, this whole kerfluffle, apparently it's now officially reported that Asha Sharma was the one to get rid of that marketing plan. They revealed that their next console is called Project Helix. That's the code name for the project, at least. It's the next Xbox, releasing, reportedly, allegedly, in 2027. And we have this quote from Seamus Blackley, who was one of the creators of the OG Xbox. He said this as an interview after the whole leadership change. He said, they don't say that, but that's what's happening. I expect the new CEO, Asha Sharma, her job is going to be as a palliative? Man,
I'm not reading it.
I'm going to skip that. I'm going to skip that word.
What word is that?
A care doctor. Here, David. What does it say? And we're pausing the quote.
Let's see. They don't say, but that's what's happening. I expect the new CEO, her job is going to be as a palliative care doctor who slides Xbox gently into the night. So palliative care is like end of life care.
Thank you, David.
Like hospice stuff.
Thank you for educating me. I appreciate it. So, reported by Games Radar, that was Seamus Blackley's quote. So, Project Helix, it's coming out. The main idea is it's going to be a console PC hybrid, but nothing is confirmed at the moment. Here's a couple things to run down. It has magnitudes more ray tracing, about 10 times more ray tracing capabilities. You okay, Charles?
I heard a
I heard a big
reverberation.
clunk.
If you heard a thunk, that was my foot hitting a drum.
Oh man!
I apologize.
And
I should probably not have that underneath that chair anymore. But I always
the
forget
snare
about
drum
it.
underneath
I
the
always
chair.
remind you every time I'm here when I kick it.
And in case that it's in case in case the
I
chair breaks.
apologize.
But anyway, so the Helix is coming out. They just announced at GDC that they have a new initiative where the development of games, they're streamlining it even more for the next Xbox, where the first thing a developer creates is for the Helix, and then you can also like branch off and make it for the Ally X. But then take one more step and more investment, you can make it for the Series consoles, PC, and then the Series consoles. So what are your guys' reactions to like Project Helix, the leadership change? What's going on? Billy, what do we got?
If I'm not mistaken, they used to make things for PC and then port it to consoles, right? Back in the day.
That's what I was going to say was actually, I remember from when I was doing games for if you wanted to do Xbox, that'd have been 360, I'm pretty sure. I could be wrong. It might have been Xbox One. Forgive my fuzzy memory. But you had to do exactly that, which was make it specifically for their console. And if you wanted to run it on something else, and if you didn't make it specifically for their console because they had such wonky, let's just call them thingamajiggers in the programming, it would just break immediately. You couldn't port very well. See earlier complaint of Xbox previously involving the porting of Halo from PC to Xbox.
Oh my God, Halo
the
2 for
Bungie
Windows
thing.
Live was horrible.
Yeah. So, yeah, no, that's been the process forever, was make an Xbox game and then we can port it over. And I'm surprised to see them selling it as a feature, but I think they were quiet enough about it that most people didn't notice. And like you said, it's common to assume it's the other way around because logically speaking.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think it's shifted over the years because there were definitely. I remember what was it? The Witcher 3. Before it came out, the pre-release footage was mind-blowingly good looking.
Yeah.
And then after it actually released, it
Yeah.
turns out that they had to actually make it look worse so that it could run on the consoles.
Yeah.
Yep. And that's why they have that policy of build it, but then, build it to our specs because otherwise it's going to melt
Well,
the
if you
console.
notice in modern day game trailers, it'll say in-game footage.
Yep.
Yeah, versus
I.e., a reference to my comment earlier, Ubisoft.
Oh, that's not bad. Witcher 3 runs at 900p on the Xbox One, David. It's not bad at all.
900 pixels?
Like 900, yeah, like 1080p.
Like
900p.
okay, so like
Yeah,
like my old CRT
yeah,
one.
1600 by 900,
Barely above DVD, but lower than DVD HD. Got it.
and that's at 30 frames, by the way.
Woo! Yeah, for like one of the first games that did that was that had a huge uproar was Watch Dogs.
Oh, dude, yeah, I
The
remember that.
the E3 trailer. What was it, like 20? I don't even know. 10.
2012, and then I think it
2012,
was
something like
2014 it came out. Yeah,
that. Yeah, and then the difference between the game. So a lot of new trailers will show like pre-rendered. It'll say at the bottom and almost like
pre-rendered or
in-game real footage.
or in engine.
But as far as Xbox's direction goes, I mean, I understand they're trying to get to the most broad, availability of people, but most people I know don't even have an Xbox Series X. Most people are still, wait, is the Series X? I don't know. They need to come up with better
Yeah, they do
dang
better names, dude.
So, no,
I liked it when they just had
legitimately-
numbers.
Legitimately, I know people whose parents have accidentally bought the wrong Xbox because they don't know.
Dude, yep.
It's easy to have a numerical number, 5, 6, whatever.
360.
360.
I mean, and they really screwed up because they released the one after 2 other consoles.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah,
It's
and then
just
the
so
One
confusing.
X, and then
Well,
Series X. You're like,
I wonder how many
what?
millions of dollars they have missed out on
Oh,
because
it's
the
gotta be a
people went
lot.
and bought the wrong
Well,
series of
and the
Xbox.
Xbox One, if I remember correctly, their excuse for calling it the One was it was the last one you'll ever need, and it's all
It's
in
all
one.
encompassing.
That's
The
weird.
TV, baby.
That sounds exactly what they're trying to do now.
Yeah.
You know, there's a
Except with
saying-
AI.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's a saying that repeating the same mistake and intelligence levels. I'll let you fill in the dots in between.
I heard
those
that
two.
on Far Cry 3 from Voss. That was the first time I ever heard that. No, I'm serious. That was the first time I ever heard that quote was from Voss in Far Cry 3.
That's awesome.
I'm
Google
talking a little crud on Ubisoft, but I've played every single game and I love them. But
Yeah.
anyways, I just
You
like to-
are the reason they exist. You go,
Yeah.
"Oh, I hate this. These guys made such a horrible game.
Yeah.
I bought 4 more of them today, though.
I've pretty much played every Ubisoft
The Assassin's
game.
Creed Origin museum mode.
I've played every single Assassin's Creed. Yeah, I'm a huge Assassin's Creed fan. But yeah, I don't know. I think that as long as they focus on games, that's all the normal average day consumer cares about is. And original IPs, we were talking about like the loss of talent and stuff, and I was thinking like with that loss of talent, how much, you know, that's why indie games are getting so popular. I mean, I just played a game for 6 hours the other day, not this last weekend, but the weekend before that, where you're an egg and you're trying to get up under the top of this thing. It was almost like that weird, I don't know what the game is called, where you have the hammer thing where you go up and up and up and up. Markiplier played it a lot.
Oh,
Getting over it.
Getting over it. So you're an egg and you just try to like, and it has egg mechanics.
And you spent
kidding
how
you
Dude,
not.
what is this called?
You
I
spend
need to
how
look this up.
long on this?
hours
What is this called?
playing this. I have to look it up. I don't know.
I'll
Is
just
the hole
Google
still in
egg
the
game.
roof?
What's that?
You still have a hole in your roof, right?
Yeah.
So 6 hours with an egg and there's
Yeah.
a hole in your roof.
But,
Priorities, man. Gamers.
Legitimately,
I'll never
it has
understand.
the dynamics and physics of the egg where it has a point where you can jump the egg where
Is
it's
it
at
egging on?
the egging on.
Oh,
yes.
man.
Yes. So anyways, the point of that is that game captivated me more.
There's a soundtrack you could buy.
Yeah. That game captivated me more than most like any recent game has.
They're certainly
and it's
egging
just an
them on.
indie game. And you can get like there's really cool. You can
This
get
actually looks pretty fun. Not gonna lie.
yeah.
Wow, that's better graphics than most Xbox games.
You can
right now.
legitimately get like a rocket egg and a teleporting egg and stuff. It's pretty cool.
This looks super cool.
Yeah, it's super fun and it's super
Oh, it
original.
paused.
No,
But like
no, they're
with
okay.
that loss of talent,
You're in a carton, bro.
Yeah.
Check it out. That's kind of cool.
yeah, with that loss of talent from these big, the big
You have egg
conglomerates.
skins? What?
Yeah,
Dude, Humpty
You've got to be
Dumpty.
yoking.
You got
yeah.
I couldn't
So
help
with
it.
the loss of talent from, I've noticed in my research.
tempted to buy this right now. Sorry.
Oh, you're okay.
How much is it?
With a bundle, I have a game where it gives me like 10% off, so I can get it for $13.50. It's $15.
If it was 10.
Yeah.
Prepare to want to punch your TV screen in the face.
Oh man, this looks cool. I
It's
wanna
really
play
fun. But with that loss of
I'm gonna
talent,
remember that when your roof leaks directly on you in the next rainstorm, you're gonna be like, "Oh man, it leaked." I'm gonna be like, "Eggs."
yeah.
But sorry to interrupt you,
No,
Billy.
you're okay.
Sorry.
Yeah, he's only tried to start it like 4 times.
Yeah,
now.
4 times.
So with the loss in talent from these big conglomerates, like Ubisoft and whatever, I feel like some of the indie games that these people have actually gone and created are really like awesome and original. I'm just hoping that Xbox gets some new titles. Like we're all burnt out on the same movie titles that have had reiteration after reiteration after reiteration, And what has Xbox created in the last 10 years as an original IP? I mean, since Overdrive failed,
Yeah.
they took away that one beat game where you run around. I don't remember what the name was, but
I can't think of any.
yeah, it was 2 or 3 years ago.
the guys who made Hellblade made that multiplayer game, which I was forgetting the name of, but it died.
Yeah,
Sounds very memorable.
Yeah. Dang.
yeah.
I
There's
can't
like
think of any. They
there's-
all usually just buy their IP.
yeah, exactly.
point.
They've absorbed other IPs, but they don't have an original like Xbox thing. I mean, like what happened to Halo Infinite?
Oh man.
They're supposed to do cooperative play, which is a staple of Halo.
Oh, yeah.
I'm really passionate about that. Sorry.
No, same man.
and they didn't put cooperative play into Halo, and like I just really hope that they, whatever direction they choose to take, they actually start making games. Because I don't want to play another Gears of War, even though the new one looks actually pretty cool. But like, Gears of War, Halo, like, okay, where's the creativity? So that's why I think the indie games have gone up, and that's why Steam has taken over, is because that's a really good platform and launching platform for indie games. But we talked about last time about how Xbox used to be the OG place to play indie games.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if they can capitalize on something like that, where it's like, hey, we promote this,
or
which
be
they do with
very-
Game Pass and
yeah,
stuff.
and they're really friendly with, at least at this point, they're trying to be, because they're at the bottom.
Yeah.
Friendly with developers. That's why they're doing the Streamline thing in the first place for devs. But I mean, why would I release my product on the Microsoft Store or on the Xbox when I can more easily put it on Steam or something else? I think what Xbox is doing with the Streamline thing is they're trying to also say, hey, with our platform, we can also advertise for you. That's the great thing with Game Pass.
Yes.
Is they can advertise the game too.
Yeah,
You
and
get eyes on
Steam
your
does
game.
that too.
Well, here's the thing, is that there's such shout out to Colin Moriarty. He says this a lot, where he says, I could stop playing games, any new releases right now, and be fine. Because there's so much stuff that's released in the market every day.
Yeah.
I think Steam had 20,000 games released in the year of 2025, which
Yeah.
is ridiculous. So, and there's asset flips and stuff like that. But the point is, it's really hard to get eyes on your game and people who are willing to buy it and care about it. So discoverability is a big issue as well.
Yeah.
But what were you?
No, yeah, I think that making games, I like the advertising part of that, and I mean, I think Xbox. There's enough people who love Xbox, that I think they could bring it back, And I'm an Xbox guy. I mean, I'm a video game guy in general. I've never been a console war guy. I've owned every single system there, modern day system, and most of the time at the same time.
Yeah.
So in one room, I've got the PlayStation, and usually right next to it's an Xbox.
Nice.
And I really hope that they bring back games as a priority, and first party games, because that head to head market was where we got the best of the best.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
where
you could say,
they were when there was a console war, competition leads to innovation.
Yes.
And when there was a war against which one's what better, there was so much better content coming out.
Yeah.
And I mean, we talked about last time where the games were complete when they came out because there wasn't live service and there wasn't as much internet and everything like that, which is a different discussion all in itself. But so
you're saying as long as they focus on first party in games,
that's what everyone, the common
what people
person who's
want.
not a techie guy who they just wants to play games, is they're just I just want good games. I don't care what I'm playing it on. And most people I know don't even like I said, have the new Xbox. They're still playing on the Xbox One X.
Yeah.
I don't actually know.
I'm still playing on a 360.
Yeah, well,
It's modified.
But these new console generations, I think that's why this console generation, like the 5 and the Series X, failed so horribly, is because there's just not anything to define the generation. So we need console defining
I mean,
stuff.
once the Switch came out in 2017, it was kind of like, oh, this is Nintendo's new generation. And ever since then, Nintendo's been kind of off to the side doing their own thing. Probably at the end of the day, it'll probably be the best-selling console we'll see. PS5 has actually outsold PS4, in terms of pace of sales. So it's there's still a hunger. People still desire for it.
Yes,
but I think when you look at it, and when Microsoft has taken such a backseat with them investing in Activision, Bethesda, Blizzard, all these things, and now because of that, they have to because they made the biggest multimedia purchase in history, they have to show for it. So now it's how do we make money off of this thing we spent $68 billion on? You know?
It's really funny. You talk about PS5 sales outpacing the PS4.
It doesn't seem
I would
that
be
way.
I would be willing to bet that most of the people buying PS5s right now
Well,
probably are
point,
doing
up to this
probably
point,
up to this point are probably doing so to mostly just to play PS4 games they haven't gotten to yet.
or they have Call of Duty, Fortnite, what have you, and this is their like it's better.
I think that's the big one is they're just like, well, what's the newest one to play? Call of Duty, Fortnite.
And I think that's one reason people have stayed on PS4 because there's a good chunk of like 10 million people, 20 million people that are still in the range, I should say, that are still on PS4 that are playing these games. I mean, Genshin Impact just delisted off of PS4 and shut down on their services on PS4 because they want people to move over to, they don't want to develop for it anymore. They're like, guys, it's 13 years old, give it up. You know, like there's still 2 million people every month, I think, on PS3, on PSN. So it's like, and that's in developing countries and what have you, people can afford it there. But like, I think this last generation games as a service really defined it. But when people are living their life on a service game, there's not that money's there, not in like new releases or first party stuff. I think. Yeah,
it seems like the new iterations or generations are more like a package in a car. You get the LS, the LX, the whatever, like the F-150, the XL, XLT. There's just like so many versions of the same thing. It's not like a new car. Like each one's not a new car. It's just like a slightly different variant. And that's what it kind of more feels like to the average person, because I'm more of like the average Joe Schmo in this aspect. Is just like, okay.
Says the man wearing a Fallout shirt.
Well,
a lot of people like Fallout.
Hey,
but I know you owned that before the TV show.
Yeah, disclaimer, I've been playing that game well before the show came out. 15, 20 years ago. But
you and Jonathan Nolan.
Yeah. I played Fallout 2 and I gave up.
Well, I love Wasteland.
Yeah.
I can't get through 'em.
I think the demographics is a good thing to look at when you're talking about the different consoles too, because you got two main things that have been said in the last couple of minutes that are just very poignant. The first one of which being Nintendo's off to the side doing their own thing. Yeah, they got smart. They basically withdrew from the rest of the competition among the consoles and went, we have our corner market over here of this specific style of games. And that is also why Nintendo has been around for a very, very, very comparatively long time. And they're probably not going anywhere. Yeah. Because they know what their market is.
What?
The fan. David, the fan.
Oh, that's fan. Right. Yes.
The jet fan. It's heating up.
Oh, sorry. I was listening to Charles speak, so I didn't actually know.
Dude, I totally derailed you, Charles. I was like trying to be subtle about it. Like
that was so subtle. It was like a big blinking red light and subtle.
Just like the PS4.
Yeah, he imagine, like on our last episode, we had a snafu happen and the recorder froze, and so we had to start over. And he like in the version that didn't make it. He denigrated my use of Max, and right as he was saying that, the fan on his laptop turned on, and I was like, well, at least my MacBook doesn't sound like a space shuttle taking off.
That's not a bad thing.
No, it's not a bad thing, but anyway.
I once had a friend who annoyed me, and this is back when laptops were slightly larger, and I may or may not have stuck the readout of a kazoo into his fan.
Oh, God. That's terrible.
It's so great.
That's bad.
But Nintendo.
Nintendo, Charles, you brought up Nintendo.
Yeah, so two things. One, Nintendo off to the side doing their own thing. That is good marketing. And that is the difference between, I'm going to call it new money and old money, because that's the terms that I was raised on by old money. But new money and old money have two very different approaches on how to spend money. One of them spends some money and goes, how can we make this better? And we need to work with it. And let's buy something that's intelligent in the first place. And new money has a tendency to buy whatever the shiny thing is in an attempt to persuade others that it was a justified purchase. And that is exactly what you're seeing here. In this particular instance, Nintendo's the old money.
Very
they know what
old
they're doing.
money.
Yeah. They know what they're doing. They've been around for
forever.
Over 100 years.
Yeah, it's over 100 years now. I was trying to think of when that, because I know I should know that. I think it's almost 200 years now. Oh, because they obviously didn't start.
They didn't start with video games, but they
1910 with video games.
They started in like the late 1800s.
Was it? Yeah, I was trying to remember exactly how long. They're old.
In the 1880s or 1890s.
And they've been
100 years to get to the NES.
And they've been adapting the whole time. Every time something like this happens, they adapt. And there's a certain value in watching how a company with that sort of longevity handles this sort of thing. And it shows you how volatile the other market is, that they were fighting and then took a step back and went, why don't you guys have that? And we're going to be over here with our children's market, so to speak. Again, not that all the games are children's, but that's, let's be honest, that's the primary shot of Nintendo, is a younger market demographic.
Children and man children.
Right, exactly.
Yeah,
Well,
exactly.
Microsoft.
I'm not saying that's as an insult. It's just
No, no, no,
I
it's the
am
truth.
one myself.
Yeah, it's
I'm
the
wearing a
truth.
Fallout t-shirt. So
Well,
I mean,
Microsoft is out here claiming they want
That's
to, not claiming they want to go after Steam, but making it clear like they want to go after Steam, and doing it's got to be the third or fourth time now claiming that they're going to do an all-in-one console. Well, people like Billy stand here going, why aren't they focusing on the games? It's a game console. Well, the reality is the company doesn't know what they want. Microsoft doesn't know what they want. They want to make, air quote, something profitable. And because they're unwilling to make a decision on what direction they want to go with a tool, it ends up being like a utility vehicle or an SUV, in that it's not very good at anything. And the example, hearkening all the way back to the cars, the Lamborghini SUV. Compared to other things that are the price point of the Lamborghini SUV, it is not fast. Compared to anything that goes off-road that is not in that price point, it's not very good at going off-road either. So congratulations, you've bought something that isn't as loud as a normal Lamborghini. It's not that fast, and it doesn't do good off-road, while also not doing good on-road either, because the suspension's set for sort of off-road. So at the end of the day, you've dumped a bunch of money into something that tries to be a whole bunch of other things, and at the end of the day, isn't good at any of them.
that's why you can buy a Porsche Cayenne for like $5-6 grand.
Yeah,
That
exactly.
reminds me of that show Clarkson's Farm.
Yes.
After he got fired off of Top Gear, he started that Clarkson's
I
Farm
love
show.
that show.
And he goes to buy a tractor, and he ends up buying a
Lamborghini.
Lamborghini tractor.
Which, arguably, though, Lamborghini made tractors long before they made cars, and they make some dang fine tractors.
Okay.
But it
However-
was too big for his farm.
Yes, he bought one that could do his swatch in one pass, and that's a bit dumb. Yeah. Same
that's
concept there of old money versus new money. He went, what's the shiniest, biggest one I could get, when he could have gone out and got a
Yes,
mid-range
but it's a
Lamborghini. It would've been
Lamborghini.
easier, yeah.
I can't believe this.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, I think you make a really good point. Nintendo's doing their own thing. Sony's at the top.
Yeah.
They're making poor choices, but they're at the top. They can afford it.
And that's the reality, is with Microsoft fiddling around trying to figure out what it is they want to do. And like I said, they're trying to come for Steam.
They're trying.
And that shows you
Are they
that
trying
whoever
to buy it?
Well,
that was April Fool's, bro.
That was April Fool's.
Was it really?
It was April Fool's.
Oh, I fell for it.
My coworkers, they were like, them too. They're like, hey, did you hear about Microsoft's buying Steam? And I'm like, and the guy who,
Oh my
like,
god, I didn't even
and then the
realize
guy
they were
who-
fools.
and my reaction, I was like, and I was thinking, I've listened to, I consume so many video game podcasts and video game news. So I'm like,
How?
That can't be true. So I was like, I don't know if that's true, guys. And so they're like, well, it's gotta be true. I can't believe they're gonna do it. And then they're like, well, let me Google it. So one of them Googled it like 10 minutes later. He's like, it was April Fool's, guys. We're like, oh, okay. So yeah,
I totally.
you weren't the only one.
you know, I'm gonna be honest. I totally forgot it was April.
Yeah,
It
that
was
makes sense.
April Fools. I-
You're
It was
adulting
so
and
funny.
Yeah.
doing
Dude.
adulting
They're all
things.
like, yeah, they're gonna buy Steam. Like, yeah. Afterward, I was like, God, if that was the case,
So
That's
anyway,
a good one. That's a
really good
April
one.
Fools.
So
They got 'em.
Microsoft is coming for Steam, whether buy them or attempt to go for that market share grab.
Yeah.
But what that tells me, as again, someone who does some business related things on the side, obviously, what that tells me,
drugs,
yeah,
I'm joking.
business drugs.
business drugs.
Spreadsheet.
Excel.
Wait, business drugs. Wouldn't that be like cocaine?
No, that's the 90s, bro.
Oh, yeah.
That was
okay.
90s business drugs. This is modern business.
Oh man, You got
equality.
AI,
Anyway.
invite
Just
AI.
ask Jordan Belfort.
Oh man, but
money.
where were you going?
I was going somewhere with that. I
You're going
promise.
somewhere. All right,
But it got
ride.
sidetracked
Welcome
by
to the ADD podcast.
business cocaine. Yeah. Yeah, right. Why do we bother writing down what we're going to say? We end up off topic. Microsoft dumb. No, that's not it. Microsoft.
You said a great. Let me get back on track. They are trying to make something that is for everyone, but isn't for
Yes.
anybody.
Anybody.
Well,
at the same
marketing
time.
it towards nobody
Nobody.
because of that.
Nobody.
Because what ends up happening is people who aren't gamers look at it and go, "Oh, that's a game console," and,
And
the people who are gamers
Yeah.
go, "I don't want that one. It's not doing
And
it."
I think that was kind of the mistake they did with this is an Xbox. They're like,
They did that with the
how do
Xbox
we
One.
get as many people as possible like they did with the Xbox One.
Agreed.
They did it again with the marketing thing. This is an Xbox. They tried to get everyone instead of just trying to make good business decisions.
And the problem is with coming for Steam out of that going, well, Steam has the market share on all the indie games and all this other stuff. Yeah, guys, you know why? It's because Steam is on every computer that can't run an Xbox. Go look at Steam puts out their statistics at the end of the year. The average processor is still like an i3.
Yep.
It's not where you go if you want the big fancy game. So clearly this demographic, whether they answer the Q&A or not, and this is where I'm going with this, the demographic doesn't want shiny new. They just want the fun. And if you're taking the game console out of that and trying to add other stuff, you're making it shiny new and not fun. And that's just contrary to what people want. And the part that Microsoft right now actively, and I feel justified in saying this based on their actions, is doing the same thing that a lot of other companies do in that same vein, where they go out and they take polls and they ask questions and they go around looking at their fancy analytics data and they forget one basic simple principle that is institutional knowledge that they don't understand about taking surveys. And that is only a certain type of people will answer a survey.
True.
And people who spend time on their computer playing games all day are not statistically overlapping with the kind of people who will openly on the street stop and tell you their opinion about what they want out of a console.
But a survey is what's going to be brought up in the boardroom.
Exactly. And that's where it goes wrong.
Investors, yep. They can also, in the boardroom, bring up the stats for Steam. They can. I'm sure there's stuff behind the scene business strategies that have been happening in Microsoft.
I mean, there has to be something. They're not.
Yeah, and with Asha Sharma going to her, bringing her in is really interesting. I don't know much about her, but apparently she did a really good job managing Cash App. I think she was part of some other apps and it did well. Yeah. And she's kind of known for taking a product and bringing it to make it profitable. And that's, I think, why Satya Nadella is bringing her in to kind of manage this. She is not a gamer. Which she doesn't have to be. And I'm glad that he's bringing in somebody like that, because she knows how to manage a brand. And as long as she can come in and kind of hopefully make good decisions while also taking input from the team that's been there for 20 years, like the hardware team and a couple other folks like the Xbox
and
Live
if the
team.
board will listen to her.
And if the board's going to listen to her, how is she going to manage something that, that Phil Spencer, God bless his soul, kind of messed up in a really big way. This was something I was thinking about a couple months ago, actually, where I think Phil Spencer did a really good job taking the Xbox One disaster and bringing it back to where it could be a better brand and salvaged, And I think Game Pass was, at the time, a great chance to kind of bring more eyes to Xbox, invest in the indie scene, pay for development of those indie games to keep making more cool, interesting titles, and to kind of be this thing that is the Netflix of video games. But what happened was, I think he overstayed his welcome. Yeah. I think he should have left back when the Series X and S came out, and they should have never purchased Activision Blizzard, because Bethesda, it makes sense. They've been in relationship for a long time.
Yeah. There was a lot of first-party DLC that came out on Xbox. I mean,
Fallout, Oblivion,
a lot of exclusive past things.
Skyrim, all this stuff. But Activision Blizzard was the play that made me think, why are we doing this? Yeah. Like, why are we purchasing the biggest publisher in the industry just so that you can now be called the biggest publisher in the industry because of them? And now when you put Call of Duty on Game Pass, it has to be $30 now, which is kind of going into the most latest news, which is they're thinking about taking Call of Duty off of Game Pass so that now there can possibly be a price cut.
Yeah, because their analytics showed that the subscription fall off was pretty crazy.
Yeah, and why not make somebody pay $70 and then get them in there, and then they pay all the microtransactions and stuff for Call of Duty instead of $30 a month.
Cursed to have a new Call of Duty every single,
Yeah, they'll never stop, man.
Because the last one,
buy it.
I bought. What was it? I don't even know what the last iteration was. I have it. I think it's Black Ops. One of the Black Ops.
Did you buy 7, which was last year, or 6 was the year before?
6. I bought 6.
Yeah.
Had a good time with that. That was pretty fun. I guess the new one was absolute trash.
Yeah, 7 was garbage from what I heard. Yeah.
Yeah. But, I mean, you know what's crazy is I remember when Call of Duty was like an actual historical game.
Yeah, man.
Like you actually were in conflicts that existed, you know, like Call of Duty 2. I think we talked about that last time with like Big Red One.
Yeah, and Hans Zimmer,
it,
I think, did the score for like the first or second one.
Yeah, and it brought attention to companies and untold stories was the big thing, you know, in wars that you didn't see about and hear about. And now it's just like, you know, aliens.
Yeah, Call of Duty has
giant-
become like a meme, basically.
Yeah.
Because like even when they transitioned away from the World War II thing, it's like there was a lot of real world parallels to the stories they were telling.
Yeah.
Like when Modern Warfare first came out, I remember playing it. It was a very grounded story. It was like something like this could easily happen in the world.
It probably does.
And then you had the original Black Ops
seems-
games, which are set in Vietnam.
Yeah.
And then after a certain while, they're like,
What is this?
just throw that out the window. And we have aliens and zombies now.
You know
I'm
what
not
I'm
going to
waiting
comment.
for
I'm not
is-
going to comment on Call of Duty because I have pretty much no experience with it out of a couple multiplayer matches and playing through the
Zombies is the
campaign
best.
of Advanced Warfare of all games, which I actually really liked. I really liked that campaign with Kevin Spacey. That was awesome. But anyway, that's all I have to say.
You know what? I'm
There's
waiting
Call
for
of
the-
Duty.
You know what my recommendation is? Activision, listen up. Call of Duty Civil War.
Yeah,
You
Yeah,
have a
yeah,
musket
yeah.
loader,
Yeah.
a barrel loader, just like
Yeah,
you know,
dude.
you have to wait for that. Like you know,
Dude,
how
no, the
intense
French-
it
no,
would
no.
be loading,
French
trying
Indian?
to like see who
French
can
Indian
load.
War. That's where I
who
said.
can load-
The Patriot, first
Or the
person,
Spanish
baby.
Indian
Yeah.
War, if you want to just go crazy
Dude,
with it.
Spanish,
in a
dude,
multi-
Teddy Roosevelt.
Indo-American War,
Do
the
a
Rough
multiplayer
Riders.
match where you're like panically, you have to like do it manually, panically loading your flintlock pistol to just try to shoot the other person.
Honestly,
VR.
that is
Wall
like
running
such a
be
great
damned.
idea.
Yeah.
Because you know you
Like
had
Far
that.
Cry Primal, but
yeah,
Call of
that's what I was
Duty.
gonna say. is you had Far Cry Primal. Why not have basically a Call of Duty game, but it's like the Patriot in first person?
Patriot.
Yeah,
Hell yeah.
exactly.
That's
Like,
what I want.
You know what this
Like,
reminds me of?
360 no scoping while you're trying to load
Trying
it.
to load
Use your ramrod and flintlock. You're like, ah!
Now, see, that's a VR game I'd play.
You bring it, you know, because it's in that era. You could be on a ship. You fight pirates. you
Yeah.
know.
The pivot of
Naval warfare.
Call of Duty like
Oh,
that.
Call of Duty naval warfare. There
There
we
you
go.
go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh God.
Oh God.
I just had
Anyway.
flashbacks to my NW pins.
All right, so
the thing with
Uh-huh.
Call of Duty, I just want to say the thing that reminds me of most is Saints Row. The pivot that Saints Row did, from like being a competitor for Grand Theft Auto into being
they're all
giant
wacky.
aliens and flying through
They
the
just
air
gave
and
up
everything
'cause,
else. I think
yeah.
Call of Duty has a very similar pivot in motion, just at a much slower scale, where it goes from extreme realism to now we're fighting a floating alien. Any minute now, there's going to be a subwoofer and EDM gun that just.
I remember when Infinite Warfare came out, people were saying this is the worst Call of Duty. Why are they going to space? I heard the campaign's great actually, and I do want to play that actually. But
You know what I
Yeah.
think could save Xbox?
what could save Xbox, Billy?
Titanfall 3.
Hell yeah!
What happened to I don't want to see any extra titles, and why can't they have a new IP?
I know, but Titanfall 3 could
Spaceballs
save
too,
it.
Billy.
Well, no, what they should do is get a flipping Fallout game out because that
Yes.
show is exploding the fan base.
Yes.
But that would be paying attention to demographics and the
dang
people that
it,
actually buy
Charles,
your
you
stuff.
make too much
You
sense.
can't do that. The money's already being squeezed somewhere else in a back room. You can't try to
man.
get the same money from people. No. Merchandising overlap.
Todd
we
Howard-
need to do
Problem.
Vegas because
That would-
I tried replaying that game and I'm sorry, it's a great storyline, but the mechanics suck so bad that I
What is
could not
that?
play it.
Where are we?
That would
We
require.
are toward the top part,
Oh,
Xbox
God.
section.
Really?
Yeah. So let's keep going.
I'm looking at the
pictures,
the
and stuff for
notes,
PS6.
trying to figure
I
out
want
where
to get
we
to
are.
the PS6. We need to talk about. But in
I'm
terms-
down here reading under Steam is building Valve Machine, and I was going to be like,
We're right
yeah, is
above
that where? Are we
No,
there
right.
now? Almost.
We're
Okay.
almost there. We're almost.
Let me
there.
know because I'm excited to talk about.
Yeah.
that.
So let's go into that because as much as I love Xbox, the main thing is Moore's Law is Dead talked about it. He said if they come out with what the specs look like, which it's looking like really impressive stuff.
Mhm.
This is like what a $1,500 PC
Yeah.
in 2027 will be, but they're going to price it at $1,000.
Hopefully.
But the thing is, we just established that PC market, the most people that have all that hardware is mid-range, the 3060s, the 1060s. They don't even play at 1440p. Most gamers, they all
I
are still
don't.
at
1080.
1080.
Heck no. I
like
play
I
at
was
2K
until a
at
couple
most,
months
yeah.
ago. And when 1440p monitors, 180 hertz, refurbish, $90 each.
Oh, I still play. You're gonna
Acer.
hate this. I play 1440. I've played 1440 for years, but I play it like 40 frames per second because there's no point. My
Yeah, exactly.
eyeballs can't keep up above that. It's people are like it's so crisp.
Once
I'm
I
like,
get to about
that's
90
cool, but I
frames,
can't
I'm
see
like,
it. Like,
I don't know, man. I'm not built for this yet.
Yeah, exactly.
But-
My brain
but-
can't handle it.
I
think
mean,
too slow.
isn't there like isn't basically like 4K basically like established as like that's the upper limit to what the
Yeah.
human eye can even
Yes.
detect?
And right now,
Absolutely.
the PS5 and Series X do 4K pretty dang great right now. So if they can, in this next generation, really hunker down and lock it at like 120, for example, or what have you, or just bring in a crap load of powerful hardware to run all the ray tracing and AI stuff that they're going to do. Because one thing we'll transition to now as we get into Steam is these next consoles, they're reported to have 24 to 36 gigs of RAM.
Yeah, which is like half of what my computer has almost. No,
But
it's
a
not-
gaming
that's-
system.
Billy, am I joking?
No.
You know?
Yeah,
Like,
I run
30
64.
I have 32, and that is
Same here.
perfectly great for
Yeah,
me.
I run 64, and short of Space Engineers, which for those of you who play that game know exactly what I mean.
Your
I never
kernel
have a
space
problem.
program never crashes.
Yeah,
Wait,
yeah.
never mind, it does.
The Kraken attacks me so regularly with that memory leak. I just eventually got
Oh,
around to
man.
buying
For
a
those
bunch
of you who have
memory.
actually played Space Engineers, just don't put it in ladders.
Yeah, never use
They will blow
ladders.
up your ship.
They made an elevator now that also
I think they
blows up
finally
your
fixed
ship.
that.
Did they finally fix that? I haven't played in a
to
while.
put a cap on the Xbox stuff, they're going for the high end.
Mhm.
Unfortunately,
Which that's their
because
choice.
That's their choice. But I think even though they're going to dominate that market, if they dominate anything, the middle market is where the money and the growth and the what's it called? The customer friendliness is at.
Yeah.
And that is where Steam is headed. So let's get into that. So Steam is building, baby. Steam Machine is yet to release. I can't wait.
I
I'm
already
going to buy
love it.
one. I don't care if it's $600 or $700. I'm going to get it because it's giving me a good excuse to get in the living room and play there with a cool
Yes.
controller too.
So, as someone who bought a Steam Deck on the very first day, literally the first minute, because I had an in and knew when it was going to launch, I was like, "Hit the bell."
damn, boy.
as
He-
so, as
he
I
helped me
thought
get
his
one,
uncle
too.
was gay.
Yeah.
Not yours.
I have a
his-
launch too. I have a launch.
Oh, his uncle. Yeah. Anyway, so you got one.
I
and you
had a
were...
real bad joke right there.
Okay. Well, let me save you
Gonna
because
laugh for a second.
the
here.
Steam Deck. We'll get back to you, Charles.
Yes,
don't worry.
sorry.
But the Steam Machine.
Mhm.
So here's kind of the history of it. So people are saying, "Oh, it's going to be so powerful, man." No, it's not. It's going to be
designed
this.
to.
It's a budget. It has a budget. So here's the thing. The history of the game Steam Machine. Let me lay it down here. A budget laptop APU created by AMD for Microsoft Surface tablets, which for some reason Microsoft canceled and left AMD high and dry with a bunch of these APUs. And they're decently powerful. And Valve came in and said, "Hey, we'll take those off your hands." Moore's Law is Dead uses the term Junkyard Wars.
Yes.
Valve played
a
Junkyard
great
Wars.
show.
Great
I
show.
missed that
They
show.
Came in.
I always wanted to compete on it, but that, you know.
They came in and comped them and then scrounged some stuff together, did a big design. And now we have the Steam Machine, which is going to be this little box. And hopefully, as they're reusing all this hardware, they can make a really decently priced console, maybe sub $600 to $500, maybe even lower than that.
Unheard of.
Yeah,
Today's
and Moore's
society.
Law is Dead did the math. Before the RAM price hikes, they were able to produce it and make a profit at $425. After the price hikes, they'll probably make a profit at like $550, $500,
Yeah.
theoretically speaking. But that's if they can get a hold of the RAM.
Well, on top of that, too, Steam Valve is notorious for thinking intelligently.
Mm-hmm.
And although I'm sure there is a difference between DDR4 and DDR5, I can't find it because my chip can't run any faster than my chip can run the RAM. The RAM outruns my CPU right now.
Yeah.
That CPU is going to get outrun by base model RAM. And the
Yep.
reality is, like you were talking about, you guys run 32 gigs. That thing runs 30. I run 64. It doesn't matter that mine's a third the speed of yours, except it's not really because it's running at 3,600 megahertz,
And-
which is what his is running at. He has DDR5 that right now would cost him $1,000 to
M.2,
replace.
yeah.
And that's great. I'm glad. Well, he bought it before the price hike.
Holy cow.
I'm glad that he's got it, and it's really cool and all. I still run higher frames and I have more RAM just because I brute force the RAM. I run DDR4. My RAM right now, I just broke some last week, $200 to replace.
Oh my!
It's still around because it's older. Nobody wants the old. Steam is not above using, as you just said, older but still extremely functional products because they do look at their statistics and go, you know, if nobody has this plugged into a 4K monitor, why does it need to run 4K?
So what you're telling me, Charles, is you think because it has DDR5, 16 gigs of DDR5, which is what the Steam machine is having at the moment. You're saying they're going to go to DDR4?
I don't know. I mean, that would be something that I could see them doing. I'm not saying they will. I'm just saying if you went with high-end DDR4, it's around, and low-end DDR5 and high-end DDR4 have a bit of overlap. I will cite my PC as an example of that overlap. And in fact, Bill and I were talking about the overlap between GPUs the other day.
Yeah.
Because if you get, like, say, a 4090, it's probably better than most 5060s.
Yeah.
Even though it's a generation older, just because it's the top model of last generation.
Yeah.
And if they're running a lower chipset on the processing side, and they're running a better GPU graphics, which of course they're notorious for focusing on getting something that works. I don't see why they wouldn't source those other parts from whatever availability is out there. And knowing that the physical size of the machine is smaller, I'm sure they'd be open to using laptop RAM or something else. From a function standpoint, and this is something people don't like to talk about, from a function standpoint, going back to actual Moore's law, RAM is only as fast as the connector you can put it through.
Yeah.
And that connector limit is pretty well reached.
And they have, I mean...
At least for the moment. Barring any
Yeah.
fancy stuff, but they're not doing that. They're sourcing parts.
That's something I never really thought of, is Valve could possibly just source DDR4 instead of DDR5.
I mean, I'm not saying they will, but they absolutely could.
idea.
And that would not only make them competable, but it would significantly lower their price point, which could result in better sales. And again, they're not shooting for competing with Microsoft. So Microsoft going, we're going to beat them.
Yeah. They're not even competing with the PS5.
Yeah.
Well, that and optimization.
That's a big
and
part of
video
it.
games have
Look at the
gotten
Steam Deck.
really... Yeah, because like you look at one of my favorite games, Cyberpunk,
Which I'm surprised you didn't mention when talking about porting and issues between PC and Xbox.
So,
I thought about it and I was like, I'll just let them.
I think we mentioned it on the last podcast or that we were on about like the funny part about them releasing an Xbox One Cyberpunk edition when I didn't play it.
Yep.
But you know, like the optimization now, I have a Cyberpunk on my Steam Deck, which I was just playing this last weekend, and it runs
great.
beautifully.
Yeah.
And I mean, the graphics are a little scratchy and, you know, whatever.
Well,
but, you know, I think
they
most
don't have
people...
to be.
Yeah.
Because what do I do with mine? My Steam Deck, where does it live?
Oh,
You know?
on the dock.
Yeah, mine
dock,
lives on a dock. I don't move. I drop point of context for the audience members out there.
Charles.
I drop things all the time because I have a heart condition. So
I was working on the engine and I dropped the Steam Deck in there and then the fire
right,
happened.
exactly. Yeah. But I
And the
drop things all
Steam
the
Deck
time.
put out the fire. Yeah,
But now I don't have a screen.
screen.
I went ahead and soldered it, and now the HDMI connector works.
Yeah.
It did better than a thermos. No, but my Steam Deck lives on the dock, under my 4K TV, and I do absolutely play my Steam Deck all day long at 40 frames per second because I locked it at that because I can't see faster than anyway. On the 4K TV that's 55 inches across, and you know what? It plays games way better than his PlayStation. That's why he hasn't played his PlayStation. There's no point. The Steam Deck does.
That's
it.
one reason
wattage,
why
but
Valve said when they revealed the Steam machine, they said, "Hey, 25% of all the Steam Decks we have sold are docked. That users have. We have reports that people, statistics like
Use it as a
analytics,
console.
that use it as a console. So why not invest in something like the Steam machine?
Well,
And
also,
And if the internal hardware is the same, then from a production standpoint, if they have similar hardware amongst the two and just better cooling and stuff specifically designed for it,
and also
their cost isn't going to go up.
And even though these were laptop APUs, these are clocked up and watted and up the wattage of these APUs of what the original intention was. So they're going to be decent at what they do. Probably a good 1080p console or whatever, what have you.
I'm sure it'd be better.
what I gave
Well,
mine.
and the reality is, if you think about, I mean, we were talking about the fan on your laptop just a few minutes ago. The big reason you don't
This
overclock
sucker
stuff.
runs Red Dead 2 at lowest settings.
All right, that's something.
Almost 30 frames.
Oh,
this
wow,
was from
that's pretty good.
2019.
That's not bad.
We're doing
That's not
okay
bad.
over here, baby.
But concept being, that's a lot smaller than a Steam machine. I mean, physically, the overall area is probably pretty similar, but airflow wise, that's a lot smaller. And the reality is, when you start overclocking stuff, the thing that gets you is heat.
Yeah.
Red ring of death, for those of you old enough to remember. Heat is your enemy when it comes to computing. And so they can run something cheaper and older, significantly faster, with a little bit higher wattage, and have the world's most blowy fans going into that thing, and it's going to be fine.
I was listening to a podcast this week, and they described the 360 as a sad old dog that's dying. They're like, oh no, it's you don't know if it's gonna go. You're like, oh, it's still alive.
Yeah.
And then like, oh, he's almost, oh no, he's not feeling well. Let's wrap him up in towels.
Yeah.
It's like, well, you're not wrong. But I'm excited, man. And
speaking of optimization,
speaking of
though,
dogs.
I was I was reading something earlier today, which was talking about how apparently Valve is either has been or is planning to basically making modifications to the kernel of SteamOS, which is Linux based,
Oh yeah.
in order to make better use, more efficient use of RAM, in order to
DRAM, yeah.
overcome one of the main complaints about the Steam Machine specs, which is it's having only 8 gigs of VRAM.
Yeah.
So if anyone...
And that's a Linux problem. Like you said, they have to modify the kernel because Linux is what's caused the problem there. But yeah.
Yeah, so if anyone can work some magic on the hardware side and coax some better performance out of budget parts, it's Valve.
Especially when you're talking about things like the base operating system, which of course Steam OS is its own operating system, but it's definitely Linux based, which leads me to the other thing that we kind of didn't talk about Xbox, but I will only mention in passing here, which is what's the Xbox built on?
Yeah.
Because I'll tell you what I don't run on my computers anymore is Windows, because I can't, because it kept breaking itself so dang much that it was easier for me to switch and to teach our secretary and several heads of department and about 12 employees how to run Linux than to get Windows 11 to run correctly on 2 computers.
Dang. That's crazy.
And that's a real problem, and that's something that Steam can solve with that OS, because like you said, they have the ability with Linux to alter things at a software level deep into firmware that you can't do with Microsoft. They would have to do something out of the ordinary, and the question is, are they going to?
I don't know. The reports right now is they're trying to optimize, in quotes, Windows for this Project Linux. Helix.
Just like they optimized to Windows 11 and they optimized Windows 10 and they optimized Windows 7 Service Pack 2.
Yeah, dude, I'm worried.
Optimizing themselves right into the ground.
Because here's the thing, I think Microsoft is probably going to refrain from not letting you install stuff, but the main front is going to be the Xbox OS. And I think it's going to be like the Steam Deck where you can just go into desktop mode and then install whatever you want because it's Windows. But Microsoft can do whatever, and they might not let you install certain things. Who knows? I mean, I run a Windows 11 laptop at work that I just got, but I can't run a dang thing on there because at work they locked it down, and I can't even. I could barely install extra browsers.
I was gonna say,
I can't install
Chrome on
Steam.
there,
I got Chrome, Brave, Firefox, but I couldn't get Thorium.
Mm.
I couldn't get the Chromium-based browser. I was like really bummed out. But anyway, I can't even install 7-zip.
Oof.
It's rough, man. So, but Billy, you seem like you wanted to say something. I'm going to pass it to you. What do you think of this? You love your Steam Deck.
Yes.
You have a PS5. Are you interested in a Steam machine?
I think I would be. Just for the extra power and frame rate, because one of my only complaints is that, when I had my own apartment and I was running my PC most of the time, was that some games were a little too intense for the processor for the Steam Deck.
Yeah.
So a lot of times what I'd end up doing is doing Steam Link, running the powerhouse of my PC off of it and just streaming. So it'd be nice to not have to do that. I mean, I like having the Steam Deck on the road, but the Steam, machine would be nice as just, a console, straight up console to play Steam on your, like you said, your big computer or your big monitor.
Steam Link while you're not home at all, or?
No, I haven't yet.
So great.
Apparently it works.
I have a Steam Link, and by that I don't mean like thing. I mean OG actual Steam Link.
Did you get one when they were $5? Because that's what I did.
I went out and hunted it, and I bought 3 of them, and I gave 2 of them to my friends.
Dude,
and
my
I kept
cousin
the
bought
third
like
one.
4.
Yeah, and Steam keeps updating it. Every
Dude,
time they
no
do something. Yeah, no, they
way.
just updated the
Dude.
it's not Proton on that, but they
Yeah.
updated their security and they keep updating it, not functionally updating it. It hasn't touched in years. But as far as security and making it work with all their stuff, they keep it up to date because it is built on Steam OS. And unlike Windows, who if you try to update Windows 10, or for those of you who installed Windows 10 recently, you can't even install it and get it activated correctly to get the flag off your screen now. Steam doesn't do that. Here's I'm going to call it loosely a console. It's a streaming device. That's man, that thing's got to be 10 years old now. Pretty close to 15, I think. Right? When did the Steam Link come out?
2015, 16. I don't
Yeah,
know.
so 10
Something like
years.
that,
Yeah, a little over 10 years.
Wow.
Yeah, the thing's been out for quite a while now.
One
And
thing
it still works. And
Yeah.
so I run my big computer, hangs out, and it's just on all the time. And I have Starlink, and the latency is slow enough that I wouldn't do it a racing game, but for a lot of the kind of games that I play, a lot of the turn-based RPG or Age of Empires or whatever it is I'm playing, that like half a millisecond delay, it's not that big even, isn't a big deal. And I'll play the Steam Link. I play it when I'm on vacation. If it starts raining and I'm trying to do something and we got nothing going on and I get stuck in a hotel room, not able to do anything, I'll plug it into the hotel TV and play my computer at home.
Valve has done a really great thing with the Steam Link, because I don't have a physical Steam Link, but I have
works.
this I can get the Steam Link app on my first generation, way, way, way outdated Apple TV streaming box in my room.
It's glorious.
And I can connect an Xbox controller to it via Bluetooth and play games that are on this computer in my room with just this ancient Apple streaming box. and
I
it works
love
perfectly.
I love that so much. And that's actually, like I said, that's why I bought the Steam Link, is just because I wanted to have my TV. And at that point in time when I purchased it, I had a 3-bedroom, 2-bath apartment that was a story and a half. And so I didn't want to have to walk up and down. And the upstairs TV had like a 20-foot HDMI cable to the computer. And downstairs was where the good TV, which is that
TV.
same 4K 55-inch, same TV. I'm too cheap to buy a new one. It works most of the time. But that one was downstairs, so I had the Steam Link on it, and that's why I got it in the first place, is I just didn't want to have to, do it. But yeah, now literally my mobile phone here, this is a 2015 LG V600 mobile phone. I can play Steam Link on it right now. And in fact, this is a dual screen phone with a 64 megapixel camera. So I'm just going to point out old tech, guys, 2015.
That kind of goes back to our discussion about the enthusiast, where I wanted to get a PS5, but I didn't. Also, save money for the Steam machine. Let's be real. But also, it's important to be content with what you have. I mean, I have all those LAN computers, but that I resource from like junk and e-waste and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. But they run Halo 3, man.
Yeah.
They run Counter-Strike, Age of Empires, Half-Life. You can have a lot of fun with not a whole lot of money. I remember I said on the other podcast I think we did that a GTX 970 can be had for $20 right now. Yeah. And that can get you started. Yeah. Heck, on Bazite, somebody ran an RX 580, the AMD card before the 6500s and all, or 5700 XT anyway. The only way, though, that card, I had the 57 RX.
Numbers, man.
Man, the numbers suck. So RX 580, a mining card that was used a lot, but could get up and boogie in games. When it came out, somebody used that and ran Bazite. They ran a ray tracing only title, Indiana Jones, and the Great Circle on that sucker, and it ran at 60 frames, low settings. A card from 2017 that has no ray tracing course.
Are you ready? Are you ready to have your mind blown? So that when I retired my old computer that I've already forgotten whether it was the Coffee Lake or not, that was running air-cooled, it's now in a case that we lovingly refer to as the pony case at the house. It has a My Little Pony sticker on the side. It belongs to my wife. She's using it because she doesn't play the same games as me. It is currently running 2 GTX 750 Ti's, which is what, 2012, 2013? Yeah, dual. Yeah, 750 Ti. Those are what, a 2013, 2012, something like that chip. It might even be 2009. I don't remember offhand. The chip itself, the CPU is from 2009.
Oh, the chip. Okay.
But the graphics cards are 750 Ti's, which is, you know, like a
That was like the
legendary
budget
chip.
range when I got into PC.
Yeah, exactly. It's running 2 of those. She plays Hogwarts at max setting, max frame rate, has no problems. She plays that kind of game. On Linux, yeah. Linux based through Steam.
Boy,
And it's like, and so once again, if Valve decides to look at some of the older physical hardware, it's all about the programming and it's all about optimization. And the reality is, well, there has been a lot of advancements. If you have the right old stuff, you can overclock. And of course, those are not, they're severely overclocked. But that chip has been the 99, let's see, what is it? I don't think it's an i56. I think it's a 5th gen, right?
I'll tell you
Either
what,
way, it's been running at 5.2 gigahertz since 2010.
Holy crap.
On air cooling with a big old fat cooler master thing. And
Dang.
yeah. And so I'm married. So I got no one to impress.
You're going to say I'm married to my hardware.
No, I'm married. I got no one to impress. The shiny thing, my wife doesn't care. She doesn't care if I'm running the brand new chip inside or the old chip. She cares if she can play her Hogwarts Legacy, or she can play her Palia, or she can play her It Takes Two, or whatever game she wants to play that week. Forza 4 is a good one. We both like playing Need for Speed together. But if she can play the game, Tiny Tina's Wonderland is the one we're on currently. We're working through that.
Borderlands 3.
And yeah. If she can play those games on it, she doesn't care what's inside of it. She cares about the performance.
Yeah.
And she is, in my opinion, the pinnacle user of this sort of situation, because the reality is the reason the Steam machine probably will do extremely well, and the reason why the Xbox will do okay for its class, but probably not super great, is exactly that. They want to push stuff that is shiny and new. And we're hitting this, even social economically speaking, we're hitting a point where people are getting tired of the shiny new and they just want something that works.
I think that's another reason why there's so many people still on PS4.
Exactly.
They're like, oh, it runs
works.
Fortnite at 60 frames at 1080p?
Fine.
Yeah, the load times are bad, but fine.
Yeah.
Whatever.
It works.
And if you're tech savvy enough, you can actually upgrade PS4 to SSD. And
with
it'll
the
be better.
value of the dollar not meaning what it used to mean, and I'll let you interpret that in any way you feel necessary, but with the value of a dollar not meaning what it used to mean, you're going to have to try twice as hard to talk me into getting something just because it's shiny.
I just recently found a really cool YouTube channel where the like a tech guy or tech bro goes in and looks at old tech and like a Game Boy Advance or Game Boy Color or, you know, PlayStation 1 or whatever, and optimizes it to the best of its ability and just upgrades the old console and like installs a whole bunch of new little, like, you know, like, it's like, you know, the
like
PlayStation 1
connector.
Yeah, like a Raspberry Pi has way more processing power than a PlayStation 1, so they'll like do little like twerks here and there and tweaks and whatever, and you get to play like a whole bunch of cool stuff. I think that's why retro gaming's coming back so hard right now too, is because, you know, I saw this thing on TikTok because, you know, I'm on all of that stuff. I try to keep up with the youth. Plus, I'm an ex-Viner, so I was never famous. Never famous. I did have one video that went to 30,000 views, and that was the pinnacle of my fame. But anyways, you know, there's this big thing, a big push for retro, right? Like you were saying earlier that, you know, there's a big thing for retro. And one guy I was listening to, and this had like over like 3 million views, was the guy was like, there's just too many options. And that's the problem now. He's like, do you guys remember when that we all shared the same memories in video games? Because there wasn't that many video games. Like you said, 20,000 games on Steam. There wasn't that many options. And so people are regressing, not regressing, that's the wrong term, but they're wanting to go back to a simpler time.
Yeah.
You know, and that's why the 90s are big right now again. That's why literally Gen Z is wearing awful clothing. And I wouldn't be surprised if I saw with spike tips again and bleach tips.
Yeah.
I mean,
blonde tips, man.
Please don't come back. But anyways, and like parachute pants and stuff like that, or like the big baggy pants and stuff are coming back. It's crazy. But side tangent. I think that's why people are going back to retro gaming too, is because there's just too many options. Like, I'm brand new to the PC scene. My brother and Charles have been building PCs where you had to solder them, right?
Yeah.
I saw that and went,
Back in the day.
Not happening.
and I was a console bro. You know, I was just, you know, why would I do all this? It's too much work. I want a console. You know, like I like the PlayStation, I like the exclusives. But this is my first. I have a 2080 Super. I bought in 2019.
Me too.
Really?
Yeah.
And it runs fine. You know,
Yeah,
it's starting to
it's
get a
fine.
little aged, but I'm like, well, whatever. I game at 1080p at 60. I just care about the frames per second. That's all I care about. But that's why I think retro games are coming back, is because people are like, you know what? I just want a simpler time. I want to focus on the games. Like going back to my theme, focus on the games, and the console really doesn't matter. And since everything's being optimized so well that you can run it on your phone, you can play Fortnite on your phone.
RE9. You can run it on the Switch too.
Yeah, and would I
PS4 as well?
Would I play Fortnite on my phone? No, I hate the touchscreen controllers. But if I can play it with the what's it where I forgot what it's actually called, but you just put the Steam Deck in a controller.
The little
Razer,
Razer connectors or whatever.
Connectors and stuff. Like that's how a lot of my friends play Fortnite. Is they just put it in this thing and they just play on their iPhone that has the Snapdragon or whatever it is they have, and they play it on their phone.
This will play Fortnite.
Yeah, exactly.
Like it has, especially with the second screen, it does have the screen. But
like
you pop the second screen,
when I got
and there you
my
go. It's
Galaxy
a Game Boy.
S10 in 2019, it was already a year old at that point. But I was like, whoa, it runs Fortnite. That's so cool.
Yeah.
That was kind of like when I first got a smartphone. I was like, the big thing with it was like that blew my mind was like, whoa, I could like all these like retro games that I used to play are on the App Store, and I can just download them and play them at my convenience. And that was like the most mind-blowing thing about owning a smartphone.
Yeah,
was just being able to play all the games I grew up on. You know, and the whole like oversaturation of the games like market is such a real thing. Because like I can talk to almost anyone in my age group and we'll have very, very, very similar memories when it comes to growing up on video games. Yeah. But then you jump to what's out now and it's like the Wild West.
It's the Wild West. Like we have kids that grew up playing Fortnite. But it was such a magical moment this last, I think we did a training day at work and I had some new tutors helping me out. They were my nephew's age. And they all there was a moment where I mentioned Geometry Dash. And I was like, yeah, my nephew used to play that. And they're all my nephew's age, which kind of weirds me out. And I was like, oh, crap. And then one guy's like, yeah, Geometry Dash. I love that game. I grew up playing that. I'm going to look it up on my phone. They all, around in a half circle, they all got on their phones and they installed Geometry Dash from the App Store and started playing the first level. They're like, whoa, just the nostalgia hit them. Yeah. And I was like, that's so cool.
I can't do that.
Yeah, I can't do that.
Let me just go get, I actually,
like if somebody brings up Smash Bros. Brawl or Melee to me.
You know what I just bought?
Then or Nice Little Republic, then I'll be like, that would be my moment. But for them, it was Geometry Dash. But Charles,
so as you know, for my birthday, I had a LAN party, and we did, which you guys were
invited to. We need to have another one here.
Did not show up to. Anyway,
I was in San Francisco.
Yeah, you guys were pretty busy.
He was at work.
They're very busy, but nonetheless. Anyway, I had a LAN party. We did Halo but. Of the things that I've been doing is I've been going on the internet and looking up old copies of video games that I used to play on like Windows 95, Windows 7, because you can buy them on eBay now for like $5-10.
Yeah.
And I just bought Pinball Science and the Way Things Work, which I don't know if you've ever read the book Way Things Work. I'm sure somebody out there, if you have, please comment. And I will read both those comments. But it was a video game called Pinball Science. And it was exactly what it sounds like. It was the science of pinballs, and you'd like create things, and there's these little mammoths that run around, and you should Google it so you know what I'm talking about. Don't look at me like I'm crazy, but trust me, it really did exist. Oh, cool. I found it on eBay, brand new for $10. And I bought Oregon Trail because we needed it for some research for some other stuff in the company. And so I found it brand new for $10. And then everything else,
we're going to port it to the watch, baby.
Yeah, right? The watch will play Oregon Trail. I did check.
But will it run Doom?
Oh, yeah. It will. Will it run at that little Kindle display.
So we're using, in essence, the Pebble OS because
Pebble OS. I was going to bring up
Pebble is so awesome. They've open sourced, and again, not if you know anything about Pebble, they did some stuff, some things happened, they got bought out. Then they created new Pebble, which is called RePebble, Repebble.com, I believe is the thing. And they went back to their roots of their watch creation, which is open source. And of course, they're primarily software side more so than hardware. They do make hardware, but they're all standard watch form factor and everything else. So, but because they open sourced it, and we've sent multiple messages to them and been talking with them to some extent, yeah, they let you use their OS because that's the point. So much like that, our watch, the Townley Solutions Model 1, runs on Pebble OS primarily, with some little fudging to make it work for the type of screen and stuff. And because of that, their entire app store works. So if there is a copy of Doom out there, it should work on the watch. Now, remains to be seen the functionality of some of those, because when you're messing with hardware and stuff, there is occasionally issues, but that's one of the, but it should work. All of it should work as well as it could work.
And that's the beauty, Charles, of open source.
Yes, and so our watch
Steam OS is at too.
And that's where I was going with that. Our watch is also hardware open sourced because we want people to help us design cases, because again, we're horrible at it. But because that, we have a whole community thing, and it's actually in part, we have a system called the Outpost, in which people can pick up bounties that are bug reports. And so you can sign up to be a developer as a subcontractor and legal stuff pending. And chase down bugs. And if you solve a bug, you get a token, and there's very real stuff behind those. And that entire system is based loosely on a combination of a couple different companies, and one of them is Steam, because Steam does exactly that. They open source everything, and everything's Linux based and open source and open coded, which means if there's a bug, their community finds it and they can implement the fix, and they often reward the person who fixed the bug for them if it was an important enough bug.
Sometimes they get a job at the company.
Exactly. And so we are utilizing a similar...
That's a cool job interview.
Yeah, right?
I fixed bugs for you.
Yeah, and so we're using a similar process through what we're calling our bounty system, which is Wild West themed and 8-bit. You can see where that other purchase comes in. Wild West themed in 8-bit for our Outpost, and there's these bounties, and people can come in as a bounty hunter and do a bounty and receive a reward for it, and different levels of bounty have different amounts and different testing. If you want to be a tester, you're a different type of person, and you become a deputy or whatever, and you can you can end up actually working at the company if you were doing the meritorious promotion. If you were doing well enough. I was going to say
the general, but yeah,
the general thing, yeah. And that's based on Steam's policies, and that is part of why Steam does such a good job of retaining higher caliber employees and people who actually care, because A, there's competition, and B, they actually knew what they were doing in the first place to get hired. It wasn't just an interview. They had to have done something, gone out of their way and invested the time in the first place to actually do something correctly in most cases. And yeah, with it open sourced, even if it does come out looking like Cyberpunk 2077 did on Xbox, it'll get fixed because the community will fix it. You know, and that's very positive. Microsoft just doesn't have that.
Not only the community fixed it, but the community fixed it in a way where the major company behind the whole product implements it.
Yes.
Not a Bethesda community fixes, but a Steam community
an actual
fix.
Overall community fix. Yeah.
You know, I love when you see developers that kind of lean into like a bug or whatever, and they acknowledge like there's that new game. I haven't played it, but I saw a video
Crimson Desert?
Crimson Desert, where people would have found an exploit where if you like, I don't know, if you lunged and jumped at the same time, your guy would actually kind of fly a little bit. The developer, and this is just like an example of a good developer of a video game who's like, you know, this is kind of fun. They made a custom animation for that specific exploit.
Nice.
Where it looks cooler.
That's cool. So
instead of looking like you're just like,
Response
I think it's
to the
like
community.
a jab. I don't know. The viewers will probably know because I haven't played it yet, but I really want to play it. Apparently it's huge. But yeah, it looks cooler because now your guy's just like a flip. And he looks like he's actually flying. And I'm like, how cool is that? And I feel like we should need that more in community feedback.
Yeah. It's interaction with the people who actually care enough about your game or your system to be playing it. And that's such a grounded principle for these companies to have. And that's why Steam and developers like that. And like you said, you like that developer because they did that thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's good, positive marketing from a positive event.
And like, I remember when I first got it, became a fan of CD Projekt Red, with The Witcher 3. That was kind of like my first entry into The Witcher, because I've seen the cool box art and it was just intimidating to me because I was like, I was a Call of Duty bro, so I was like, it's gonna take way too long
Euro
to
jank,
play.
man.
No, he
Yeah.
was an FPS like hardcore.
Oh, dude,
like,
I didn't play
that
anything
Euro
else.
you couldn't get her
scary.
to play a good
Scary.
game. What?
Yeah. But I played The Witcher 3 and fell in love. But just like little things like like Xbox and Sony used to do with like thank you little things, right?
Yeah.
So like
Said it. CD Projekt is so good at that.
they had the little thing that came with the game, and it was just a little piece of crappy, like paper, and it just said thank you for buying our game and da 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 da. And like I remember PlayStation had that, and the Xbox used to have that. We're like, you're the reason why we're here. And it was like a little love letter to the people, the nerds, that were boosting up the product, which was really cool. So I think even little sentiments like that.
And staying in the mid-range too, like from a realistic value, staying in the mid-range of the market for video games and stuff, it's really important to do that sort of thing.
Is where the people are.
Because that's where the people are, and that's where the community forms. And that's why I think Steam will do this next generation is going to do so well, is because you've got a loyal fan base who actually cares and will be involved, as opposed to someone like Sony or Nintendo, which is kind of taking a different approach, but still functional, that has resulted in them leading the way of the other side of the market. They've got the top, they've got the peak, they've got their niches, and Steam kind of takes the normal man, the everyman scenario of it.
If Steam Deck probably is not going to have a disk drive, or a Steam machine, but if they do and they have their own little boxes for the DVD or the disc, they should bring back game manuals.
Oh man. Yeah.
Yes, I would love game manuals. I miss game manuals so much.
Yeah, I don't think like physical releases of
Probably
PC games are ever coming back.
No.
Dude,
It's
I was
expensive.
so disappointed to learn that limited run games, when they do physical versions of PC games, they ship you a USB stick in a box.
Yeah, I was
Did you ever
disappointed by
get your
that,
copy
too.
of Doom you bought from them? Like
So
4 months
apparently
ago?
it's just about ready to finally ship out.
They're gonna say that for the next 5 months.
It'll happen in 4 to 6
Like I
weeks.
said, I'm not holding my breath. It'll come when it comes.
Yeah, they have a reputation for that.
Total side note, and just super quick. Do you know there's a company that will take modern day movies and put it on VHS?
Really? That's cool.
Legitimately.
Dude, that's
it's the
dope.
coolest thing I've ever
Dude,
seen.
I
in my
would
life.
watch John Wick on VHS.
Yeah.
Oppenheimer, the way it was meant
And
to
you
be watched.
legitimately have to rewind it. It's awesome.
Oh, dude.
Be kind and rewind.
Also a good movie, sort of.
Yeah.
With that, let's continue and finish with our last topic, PS6. So let's start with this. The PS5 price increases. I just want to lay out a couple reasons I think why this happened. It's pretty obvious, but let's just list it anyway. Number one, there's multiple reasons, but I've bundled it all in here. You got RAM prices, AI, tariffs, oil costs. You got all that put together, which I think is why this main price hike is happening. Like we mentioned before, the RAM that Sony has, they have plenty of stock for probably the next year. They're totally fine in that. So they're doing it now. Why? Number two, GTA 6 is coming out. And I'll tell you what, if there's something that's going to get those PS4 people off PS4, is GTA 6.
Probably have to
It's a
take like
GS4.
2 weeks off to play that game.
Yeah, man, it's coming.
I love GTA.
It's coming.
It'll be right, and if you're lucky, it'll be over Christmas break too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I know some people are like, well, Sony's not going to do it just because of that one game. No, I think that's a good reason why the price hike is happening, because they're going to get a crap load of people coming to PS5 looking for a PS5. They're like, oh, GTA 6 coming out.
Yeah, because
I need to get something to play it on.
Consoles, right?
Ah. And so
Or
they're going to
current
try to
gen.
do
I
that.
keep calling it next gen. It's current
Gen. Yeah, me too. And also, I think also a reason why they're doing the price hike is the PS6 is right around the corner. I have a note here. Oh, I already mentioned it, so we're good. So what do you guys think? The price hikes happen. PS6 is on his way. What are your reactions? It's reported that it's locked in for 2027. The reason why there's some people that say online, no, they're going to delay it. They're talking about delaying it. The people that reported that was Bloomberg Japan, and they're known for being very unreliable.
Yeah.
So that's where that source came from. They said the Switch 2 wouldn't release until 2021 or 2020 or something crazy like that. It was 2017 it came out. So anyway, and then I'll give it to you guys. But the PS6 is supposed to go in production. Of course, things can change. Moore's Law has multiple people that he has sourced and this is from him directly, that it is locked in for 2027. If it gets delayed to early 2028, it's possible. But you can't delay your Foxconn line of manufacturing. That just doesn't happen.
Yeah.
You lock in these manufacturer stuff years in advance. Look at they locked this in like 4 years ago.
Yeah.
Like that's what's happening.
Yeah.
And same thing with PS5. PS5 came out at a time where PC hardware and hardware in general was super expensive.
Yeah.
And they burst through it anyway. Shout out to Jim Ryan, the current that CEO of the time. He paid extra to fly out PS5s to America outside of China so he can get to the market in time for Christmas, and it paid off. So I think the rumors of delaying the PS6 and the Project Helix is kind of like, I think it's all for naught. I don't think people really fully understand what's happening. You can't just say, oh, hey, Foxconn, I'm going to delay it another 3 months. That doesn't happen. They can manufacture them and then hold them, but it's going to get manufactured.
Yeah.
So what do you guys think? PS6.
I'm looking at the consolidated financial results from Sony Group Corporation, which is always a wonderful document when you start talking about prices and whatnot, is just jump into the share data that tells you the increases. If you look at like their games and network services, or GNNS as they call it on the chart, it does show a pretty good impact. With a significant change, I will save you a long string of numbers and just say it's a pretty good chunk of increase listed in sales and operating income, and their portfolio suggests that they're looking for the sales to increase this year, and if they don't, they'll still be profitable. However, they have reported on their share data that they are expecting excessive sales this year, which indicates that they would definitely be releasing this year. If they push it back from a corporation level, that means they're going to fall short of their expected yield. And financially speaking, I don't know if you know how corporations operate, but those shareholdery people and fancy pants with way too many zeros behind their numbers don't like it when you tell them you're going to get this amount and then you give them a third of it because you had to push it back.
Yeah,
and
why
so
would
there's
you?
a strong motivation there to
Gotta be GTA 6.
and that's ignoring the fact that they would obviously they would want to beat Microsoft to the table. And there's actually an interesting game
again,
there.
2027.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're talking
Because
GTA
they haven't
6
even
this year.
announced.
Well,
No, they haven't announced anything.
I'm
It's all just
talking.
reports.
I'm looking at their financial data that they release. Which go look it up yourself, kiddos, if you want. It's
Public information.
Yeah, it is absolutely public
Quarterly
information. It's
reports,
very
all that.
it's exactly what that is. Yeah, it's very Googleable, but it gives you a good insight into whether or not they expect to release stuff. And this is what a lot of like game magazines and stuff. They have whole analysts that spend ungodly amounts of time and have learned knowledge far beyond our little 4 people in a room years, analyzing that data for exactly that sort of trend. But I know enough to know that means they're really probably not planning on pushing it back, because if they are, they got nothing else that'll bring in that income in that sector. I could be wrong. It doesn't make sense to keep pushing it back after they've been mocked so hard, and also after their financial reports are expecting the output coming out, and with the PlayStation coming out as well. And
also the price of RAM, by the way, doesn't affect these large companies at the moment.
well, and
It
they're not
just
here.
affects consumers.
Well, don't forget too, as Americans, we have a tendency to forget the rest of the world exists. I don't know how else to word that differently, but that is a thing that we
doesn't.
do.
No.
Yeah, right. America. Yeah. Anyway, but yeah, they're coming out of China. Guys, Shanghai or whatever it is. I did not pronounce that correctly. Forgive me. Who speaks Chinese? Shenzhen Zhang Zingza. I don't know. The one that's outside of there's one. The city is named after the corporation.
Yeah.
They produce the RAM. Guess who's a shareholder? Most of these large corporations. They don't have the same restrictions we have, because although the tariffs affect them for their importing and whatnot, et cetera else, it doesn't affect them in the same way it affects us. And to some extent, assembly counts For example, if they're assembling all of the PlayStations originally in China or overseas and shipping them here, that import tax is on the whole unit, not the individual stick of RAM. And they're the ones producing the RAM. So it doesn't matter what the tariff doesn't affect them if they're literally, they own the mine, they own the part, they own the mill. It doesn't affect them at all. And that's where Sony has an advantage over some of these other corporations, with the exception, of course, being the longevity of Nintendo, who has long-standing agreements with production facilities in China. Microsoft has some, but they're going to be a lower priority because their sales volume isn't overall as high. Again, Nintendo and Sony make a whole lot of things that Windows doesn't make and that Steam doesn't make. And so they will have to source things that the other companies have options to. Those RAM chips are used in a lot of other appliances as well.
Also, RAM was more expensive in 2023.
Yes.
For these big companies.
Yes. Per capita.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's lower than that. In fact, I was listening to the podcast Moore's Law is Dead does, and he looked at a power supply he purchased back in 2023. It was like $150. Mm-hmm. It's now $95.
That RAM I was talking about earlier, Corsair Vengeance Pro. It's good RAM. It works fairly well. It's 2 8-gigabyte sticks or 2 16-gigabyte stick, depending on which model you look at. I purchased the 16-gigabyte sticks to reach the total of 64 that I wanted. I paid $400 and something the first round, and it was a good price. They were $250 when I looked at them 2 weeks ago.
Yep.
Their demand is up, and that was like the highest it's been in 60 days. It's still half of what I paid back then because it's not as new of a tech. But the reality is places like Corsair, there's a heavy overlap in chip design between the two, which means if it didn't cost them much to produce some more of those when it's an outdated chip, because they're definitely still making it, or the number wouldn't be that low. Supply and demand and all that math and whatnot.
You know anything about the PS6? I think if they release a PS1 launch like they did a year ago, they should make it permanent and not take it away from you. Yeah, when you started up the console, that's right. So
yeah, context be helpful.
So about a year ago, about a year ago, they did this limited run where you open up your console and it made the PS1 sound.
Oh, cool. That's cool.
But they took it away.
Oh, that's less cool.
Yeah, super lame.
I'm suddenly feel gypped about something that I've never owned.
Super lame. It was just like, I think it was because it may have been, I might be wrong, so I'm sorry if I am, but because they launched the retro version of the PS5 and
the anniversary edition.
And they gave that to, I think, everyone for like a month, and it was the coolest thing ever. Turning on my PS5 and hearing the PlayStation, and I was like super excited, and then I opened it up and it was gone. And I was super sad.
If you want to hear that, you should just turn on my PlayStation 1.
You should just go to YouTube.
I have a PlayStation 1. It still operates. I still use my PlayStation 1 because Twisted Metal.
We did play, what was the last game we played on it?
Twisted Metal.
No, it was the racing one.
No, not Road Rash. No, we played good games.
Gran
Turismo 2.
Gran Turismo 2.
Gran Turismo 2. Classic.
Honestly, there were so many good games on the PS1. I was just thinking...
Siphon Filter.
I was just thinking earlier today is like, man, there's a lot of the old JRPGs on the PS1 that I really want to revisit.
Yeah.
Or play brand new ones like that Valkyrie Profile game we looked up one time.
Oh yeah.
And they should also, because of I have a prediction.
Okay.
That with the PS6, because they're porting, somehow they've ported a lot through PSN. They've ported a lot of PlayStation games. I think that PSN is going to be a big focus. Like PlayStation Plus. PlayStation Plus is going to be a big focus because
PS3?
Personally, after having Game Pass and PlayStation Network, I've found a lot more enjoyment out of PlayStation Network than Game Pass recently, just because the PlayStation Network, I'm playing a lot of PlayStation exclusives.
Do they have any original exclusives coming out for PlayStation 6 listed besides...
No, nothing for PS.
Nothing so far.
Nothing's been
anything
even
official.
Hoped,
no,
right?
it's way too far out.
It's way too.
So those numbers have to be for the system then, because there's nothing else there.
Or
in the game sector,
6.
unless they're doing something. Well, yeah, but that doesn't. Maybe
we'll see. We'll see. I like that prediction.
Yeah.
But, so you're saying that PSN or PS Plus, I should say, is going to be more heavily involved.
I think so because here's my prediction is because Xbox Game Pass already did the legwork and the pioneering of it, and I think that PlayStation has a really good opportunity to capitalize on that. And because you think about like Xbox, you have some of the original Xbox games on the Game Pass, which is cool, but there was so many, like you were saying, JRPGs and stuff like that, and they have that Asian market and the JRPG market to capitalize on, where they have the original games, and I don't know how they imported it, if it was an emulator or whatever they did, but like playing Siphon Filter on the PS5 was, horrible because the controls are so clunky going back to those old games, but it was still really cool to be able to do it. You know what I mean? And that was, PlayStation, that was, they didn't come out on the Xbox One or the original Xbox. It came out on the PlayStation. So I think they have, and leaning into the PlayStation startup sound and everything like that. They're playing and dabbling with, and they still have the PS5 grade controller you can buy. You can't, you'd have to buy the PS5 Pro or whatever.
Well, look at the color palette of Nintendo, just to prove how well the nostalgia works and the brand marketing. You look at the PlayStation, and over the years, their look has changed dramatically per generation, to say the least.
Yeah.
You look at Nintendo, and the form factor changes, but the color scheme and the overall design is always very Nintendo.
Yeah.
It's very Nintendo. You look at it and you go, that is a Nintendo console. Whereas you look at Sony and you go, I think that's an Xbox. No, wait, that's a PS2. Perhaps it's a hard drive. I actually have a Western Digital hard drive that looks like a PS2.
I think
just a box.
I think the PS4 Pro was the best looking one though so far.
I like the sandwich look.
Yeah. The like the angular design.
Too hungry to have that.
David, what do you think of the PS6?
I'm not really looking forward to it, to be honest, because I'm so out of the loop when it comes to like modern games. And also, it's like, what games do I even have to look forward to if I were to say, I'm going to purchase this PS6 whenever it comes out?
Yeah.
Like, what games do I even have to look forward to? Like, this whole generation, this current generation of games is like ridiculously bad.
And remakes.
It's like
online live
sequels.
service.
Yeah, that's the part that annoys me.
Like basically like there's only like a couple games in this generation that I really enjoyed. There's Doom: The Dark Ages. There was Claire Obscure was really cool. I didn't play it, but it looks really awesome, and I want to revisit it at some point, or not but visit it at some point. Is Indiana Jones and the Great Circle?
That's on my wish list for Steam.
But other than that, it's like all the games of this generation look just so.
Baldur's Gate as well for you.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
Baldur's Gate.
3.
Well, technically that was this generation.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, it was.
Was it
2021?
Is it?
Did that come out for PS5?
Yeah.
And
it feels older than that, doesn't it?
It really feels older than that to me.
Yeah, it's out. Yeah,
it's been out for a long time.
No, for this generation, they started early access, I think, 2020. And then release was 2021, 2022, I think. 2023. No, 2023. 23. So early access was like 21.
That's super weird.
It seems older than that, doesn't it?
A lot less time.
It feels like it's been like so much longer since that game released. Like, but yeah, so that one too. I definitely want to play that one. But other than those, it's like I'm not interested in any games of this generation. So it's like, and the games of the next generation haven't even been announced yet.
2023. Dang.
Yeah, they haven't even been announced yet. So it's like, what do I have to look forward to if I were to, say I'm going to purchase a PS6? I don't have anything to look forward to. So I'm pretty much like, it's meh to me at this point.
Okay.
Do you think you would use it for the reusability of the older games, though, the nostalgia factor? Do you think that might be enough to convince you, or is it
like if they had the whole PS1 stuff
available on the PlayStation Network,
or you could plug I've heard rumors that you could take a PS1. This is complete rumors, complete hearsay, but I have heard that like maybe being able to just take a PlayStation 1 disc and put it in and actually play it might be a
I don't know.
factor.
I mean,
Complete
But
conspiracy.
if, hypothetically speaking, if that was the case, do you think it would be enough to convince you to buy one? Or
maybe if I got to a point in my life where I was playing more video games than I am currently, I don't play a whole lot of games right now. I still need to finish Doom: The Dark Ages.
It's good.
But yeah, and that's a game I really enjoyed, and I still haven't even finished it yet. But so yeah, if I got to a point where I was playing more games, yeah, if they really integrated like the whole history of PlayStation into the console in a way that was meaningful, and it was enticed me in some way that just simply, using emulators didn't, then yeah, that would probably convince me.
I think you guys already know what I think. I'm going to eventually get one to play all the PS5 stuff. Like, I didn't get a PS4 until 2019, I think. Same thing with the Xbox One, 2018. And I wanted to get a PS5 this year, but I'll just wait for the PS6 at this point. Also, Steam Machine's going to be cool. But I do want to say, I don't know, we've had you guys here long. We'll start wrapping it up here. But I think it's interesting just to look at, I think there's so much hyperbole in terms of the price. Like, some people are saying, oh, it's going to be $1,000, the PS6. But if you go and actually, like, if you go to Moore's Law is Dead, again, we keep bringing him up. He's our source for this podcast, but for this topic here, but he did a price breakdown of what actually it is going to cost. And that's if they purchase things right now in 2026, in April, if they do that, which they won't. But at the highest prices right now, you're looking at a PS6 that'll probably be in the range of $700.
that's cheaper than the Pro right now.
Yeah, so the Pro's what, $800 I think right now? $900? It's crazy expensive. But that's if they purchase it right now and the tariffs stay the same. That's what the price is looking at right now. Now, in terms of the handheld, though, it's interesting because there's something that happened where Sony has been telling developers and patching old SDKs saying, hey, you need to optimize for 8 threads, even though the PS5 has double that, obviously. Hey, you need to optimize for 8 threads for our eco mode, in quotes. Well, or power saver mode, I should say, in quotes. But actually, it turns out the exact specs that they're saying you should optimize for happens to be the same dang specs as the handheld is supposed to be. So
maybe they want a slice of that Steam Deck pie.
Yeah. So Sony is planning on a PS6 handheld, and the code name right now for the handheld is named Canis, and the console is named Orion. Now, also, what's interesting about this chip is it's smaller, it's 6 nanometers, and it's cheaper to manufacture. So that's another reason why the prices are going to come down, because it's just going to be easier and cheaper to manufacture and to produce it. Have you seen the size of the PS5, guys?
Does it?
That thing's a
Wait,
monster.
yeah.
Hang on a
There's
second.
a lot of stuff.
It's like a half tower.
That chip, how does that chip they're using in the portable, theoretically, how does that compare to the chip that the Steam Deck is using?
So, well, the Steam Deck APU, I think, is technology from 2022 or 2021.
Yeah, but spec-wise, as we've established, the date of the chip
Spec-wise?
is less relevant. Do we know what the rate is on
Spec-wise,
it?
I think, well, it's 4 cores, 8 threads is what we're looking at.
So is your laptop.
I know. So in terms of, okay, so I don't really know off the top of my head.
Okay. I wasn't sure if it said it directly on
clock
your
or
link
whatever.
there,
I'm
yeah.
trying to look at what the notes for him that he has.
Yeah.
He talks about the RAM.
I just thought it might have been on your
Yeah, I don't have it actually. I didn't do
apologize
it down.
then.
My bad. But they've also been patching SDKs back to like 1.0 of the PS5 saying,
Yes.
hey, you can optimize for this power saver mode. But they didn't patch the old SDKs for PS5 Pro.
That makes me wonder about the PS4 stuff too, if they're going to shut that whole service down, if they won't let the SDK crossover between those two.
Billy
is pretty
brought
hesitant.
up the term PSN, and it turns out recently news, Sony's actually backing away from that branding, and it's just going to be like PS Plus or something like that.
Yeah.
So
PS
instead
Plus
of the
is gonna
PlayStation
be-
Network,
Yeah.
it's just going to be PS
PlayStation
Plus or something like that.
I wonder how much of that might just be marketing clarity. Like
Yeah.
us here in the room talking about it, we've said the wrong one a million times.
Yeah.
Plus one.
But something else that is kind of interesting is they are sunsetting a lot of PS4 things at the moment. It says here activity feeds, web API, core libraries, events administration. There's things that devs have told Tom from Moore's Law is Dead that they are sunsetting in the background to kind of encourage devs to not port stuff to PS4, to stay on PS5 and get ready for PS6 and the handheld, which is where this power saver mode comes from. In the video, to answer your question, Charles, in the video for the PS6, that last third video I have listed here, which will also be in the description, PS6 Foundation leak, it goes into the clock speeds, the process, all that kind of thing. So it's just interesting, I think, that they are prepping for the next gen and they're actually they're implementing ways for devs to get ready for it by implementing stuff like the power saver mode, in quotes is what they say, but it's obviously going to be for the next generation. So also Orion, the PS6 is going to be using incredibly more faster NVMe SSDs, mountains of more RAM. I can't believe the amount of RAM that it might have. I mean, we're talking like 40 gigs of RAM potentially. We'll see. But he goes into detail about maybe 24 gigs for the handheld. And also devs have kind of also talked to him about this and said, yeah, to do all the AI features we need, we could see that amount of RAM. We can get away with 18 gigs, but 24 would be preferable, that kind of thing, which it sounds crazy to me. I'm like 36 gigs of RAM potentially for some of this stuff, 40 for the major console. It's going to be interesting. So there's tons of more stuff. I'll have the videos linked in the description if you guys want to see the nitty gritty of it, but especially the price breakdown of what Tom from Moore's Law had. But I mean, the prices that the major corporations pay for the parts right now is less than it was in 2023. And some of the parts consumer-wise, like the power supply I mentioned earlier, are lower than in 2023. So it's not like the end of the world. Things are going to keep going up and die. Stuff levels out.
Yeah, and everything waxes and wanes as far as
tariffs fluctuate, incomes, taxes, where they distribute, where they manufacture things. India is having a boom right now as well.
And there's also a whole bunch of what do they say? They're trying to open up some chip farms.
Yeah, in America.
In America.
Yeah. So we'll see that too. But yeah, what do you guys have in terms of this hardware thing?
I Googled it.
He Googled it.
I Googled the specs. And of course, these are in specific specs. I'm going to put it that way. The Steam I don't have is not in specific because they directly tell you exactly what the chip is. It's a 6 nanometer AMD CPU Zen 2 that runs
this is the Steam machine?
No.
This is the PS5?
Not. The Steam Deck OLED, the current Steam Deck.
Oh, the Steam Deck. Okay.
Hang on. There's a reason I'm reading this one.
Okay, go for
Zen 2 at 3.5 gigahertz, right? Whereas the Sony's is 16 RDNA 5 people dock to the console, boosting to 1.6 gigahertz, but more cores. So we have the classic issue of more cores at a lower speed versus less cores at a higher speed. And that's really interesting because it's the same issue you've seen a lot between AMD and Intel, where Intel runs typically less cores, but at a much higher speed. It kind of seems like the same across the board there. And if I had to put my money, honestly, I'd put it on the Steam Deck because 1.6, even with that number of cores, is not going to be...
Yeah, nah.
It's not going to be very fast. And yeah, the GPU matters a lot too. They're both running M2, which, for those of you who know about storage, that's just standard memory chips. Nothing fancy there, which is really interesting. Also, everything I'm seeing says there's no reports of PS3 game support, and they're not sure about PS4 on the handheld
I would like to bring up a kind of wish list for the PS6, if you may indulge me for a little bit.
I mean, I'm interested in it, obviously. Yeah, I looked it up, but that's disappointing.
Well, but so you were bringing up the specs for the Steam Deck OLED.
The current OLED Steam Deck has better specs than what they're purporting on their leaked information from earlier this year of the
PS6 handheld?
Thank you. Yes.
And what are the specs for the PS6 handheld?
That's what he said, the 1.6.
1.6 gigahertz with more cores versus the...
Zen 2?
No, the Zen 2 is what the Steam Deck's running.
And what is it running on PS6?
The bunch of letters I just read off.
RDNA?
There you go.
RDNA, that's the graphics.
That's the graphics.
I think they're running
It's a
Zen
Zen
3 or Zen 4
It
for
just says
PS6.
the Zen architecture, which I would assume is a 3 or a 4, but it doesn't specify.
If you go watch his videos, he goes into detail. I don't have the details off the top of my head.
I'm reading.
But I would encourage you to go take a look at those. Basically, there's so much more power in terms of ray tracing. In terms of raster performance, it's going to probably be about double performance, but the ray tracing is where the idea is at. For some reason, I don't know why, but the optimization for ray tracing is going to be exponentially more powerful, which makes you think. Games that really heavily rely on that is like Indiana Jones, for example. Doom the Dark Ages is required to run ray tracing. On Linux, you can run Indiana Jones on RX 580. But outside of that,
Zen 6 core. That's all it says.
Zen 6.
No, Zen
that's
6
4
core.
generations. Oh, 6 core.
It's very
that's the
specific.
Handheld. That's the handheld.
Yeah, but so is the Steam Deck.
Well, the Orion console is going to be 16 threads.
Well, yeah, but that's full console. That's against the Steam machine, not the Steam Deck.
I don't know. We'll see.
I was really
gigahertz,
hopeful.
I think 3.6 gigahertz
that's a huge gap between the
I
console and the handheld, though. That's the part that I'm not disagreeing with you.
No, I think you're reading the different information. I
Well,
think that's what's happening.
Yeah, that's a report from 2 weeks ago. I don't know how old. I think
from whom?
I don't know. I just closed it. Tom's Hardware. Tom's Hardware.
Tom's Hardware.
So he usually,
I don't know, man.
Depending on who's writing, it's usually reasonably accurate.
I was just going to Moore's for my source, but if it says something different,
my surprise is at the gap between the PlayStation 6 and the PlayStation 6 handheld being such a large
they're definitely downclocking
gap.
that sucker.
Because that's the part that's baffling me that I'm not, because the Steam Deck and the Steam machine are both, they're not as nice as the 6 should trump the Steam machine, but the Steam Deck trumps the portable. That's
different
surprising.
Technology, newer technology, different cores. You could compare them, obviously.
Yeah.
But I think it's definitely going to be powerful because of the optimization. I mean, we're talking 6 nanometer here.
Yeah.
I think actually it's 3 nanometer in the PS6 handheld.
Yeah, the handheld
so it's
3,
like
the Steam Deck 6.
It's going to be, I don't know how they do it, but it's going to be loads more optimization and more powerful. I mean, I would love, like, for example, here's an example that I think Tom brings up. Oblivion Remaster.
Yes.
That thing, all they did, now they did a lot, but they just did a graphics injection into the engine. They didn't even touch the physics or anything or whatever. They just did a graphics injection. You see a similar thing with an RTX remaster of a Half-Life 2 that's happening right now, where people are just injecting the graphics for this RTX remaster. What if PlayStation does this for some of their titles, whether it be PS4 or potentially PS3? What if they take the codes they have, the engines they have, the source code they have,
and
they just graphically inject RTX stuff? Because you have all that new RTX power, what if they do that?
Do you think maybe that's why they're playing with the, I'm sure you've seen the controversial thing with the new Resident Evil Requiem, the AI.
The DLSS?
The DSS?
Exactly.
Do you think maybe that's why they're doing that? Is so that they can
That's what I was thinking.
So they can be compatible with something that might look like something like that.
Yeah.
See, that's what I was thinking, because if you combine that with, like you said, the injection of the ray tracing into programs that otherwise would not have previously had it, absolutely. But that is exactly why I'm baffled at the specs.
Speed. Yeah.
Because the reality is that's not a graphics thing, that's a processing thing. And that's where I'm like, they'd have to kill it.
Well, what is the screen going to be on the PS6 handheld? I think it's probably going to be
I just
like
read it.
Switch 2, 1080p, 120
Yeah.
frames. I don't think it's going to be 4K in your hand. That's
true.
Way overkill.
Well, probably not. Yeah.
You know, yeah. And right now, I mean, if they do a Steam Deck 2 and they just match that same resolution, I think, I mean, with the technology in a year, I think you could, Valve could probably do it. And if they do it smartly, which they probably will, we're going to get a major upgrade for this.
Well, like I said, again, my baffling is that I am looking forward to the PlayStation 6. I probably won't buy one because I'm cheap. Yeah. But I am looking for it. He will. Well, I was going to get there.
Well,
I'm looking forward to it, and I'm looking forward to playing Billy's when he shells out the cash.
Because I will.
Because that's exactly what's going to happen. So I will get to play with it and then go, here's my experience on it. But
I mean, hey, what are friends for?
But I myself am going to purchase a Steam Deck, possibly a Steam machine, maybe both if I can pull the money out of my behind. We'll see. But because I can't afford the PS6, that's why I was looking at like the portable, because typically they're a little bit less expensive. But and this is solely from a hardware standpoint, and looking at those specs, and again, optimization plays a part, and I'm not dismissing that. The gap, oh my God, the gap is just so big that means that portable, in order for it to work, and this is why I bring that up, those specs are really similar to the ROG Ally.
I think what we're probably going to get...
You know what the ROG Ally is, right?
Which one?
The ROG Ally.
Just the Ally?
The Ally.
It's like a kind of more powerful Steam Deck.
No. It's basically Steam Link. It's a streaming system more so. I mean, it does play games. Am I thinking the right one?
I think you're thinking about the LG Go.
No, it's
there's two versions.
There's two versions.
Yeah, the ROG doesn't do streaming. It's the actual hardware. There is a streamer that's for an LG.
No, there's a ROG. There's two versions of the ROG.
There's two versions of the ROG. There's one that's like the portable Xbox right now, but
that's like $1,000.
Yeah.
There's that one that's souped up.
There was one before that too.
There's the ROG Ally.
There's another
just ROG Ally.
Yeah, and there's another name for the other one. I can't remember.
There's Ally X and then there's Xbox Ally X.
Oh, that's what it is. Yeah.
The new one's the Xbox Ally X.
Yeah,
but I think
names, man.
Yeah, the names suck.
This is exactly what we were talking about. Yeah.
The specs, from what I've seen from the...
Yeah, I found it. Yeah. Sorry, I found it. Yeah, no.
The Legion Go is what I'm thinking of.
Yes.
But I think that one
that's different,
also has hardware. I think it's different.
Yeah.
But anyway.
The concept being, I am concerned that, or more accurately, that makes me concerned that it would be less of a successor to the PSP, which is what I would hope that it is, the handheld PSP, and more of another variant of a Stream Deck where you play it off of your main, or you only get one game at a time.
PS5.
Well, I also think because
that's what they have now, too. So this would just be a newer version.
You're thinking the Portal.
It would be
another Portal
effect. I wonder if it would be, because they marketed that one for the PS5. They marketed it very similarly and got a lot of backlash for being
because
unclear
people thought it
about
was an actual portable
exactly.
PS5.
And so I'm seeing the same.
I also did that, and then I thank God I read a review before I bought it, because I tend to just be like, I bought it.
Why is this $200? And it's
I
a
rely
PS5
on Billy doing that.
Yeah.
Well, I think that with the specs we're looking at, and again, things could change. More accurate reporting could come out, but I think with what we're looking at, I think we're. Oh wait, the PS5 Slim is on 6 nanometer. The 3 nanometer is what PS6 and PS6 handheld will be. So this is going to be really.
The Steam Deck and the PS5 currently are on
6.
Not the same hardware, but the same size.
Yeah, and so I think it's probably just going to be a PS5 in your hands, downscaled a little bit, and I think that's what's probably going to happen.
Yeah,
I think that's why they're saying, hey, optimize for 8 cores, because you're going to get like half the performance, but you're going to be at a lower resolution, maybe 1080p potentially, and maybe a good frame rate. We'll see, but it'll definitely be more powerful than the Steam Deck.
Should be. I mean, I would expect
new tech.
It to be.
Yeah, hopefully.
So I mean, the Steam Deck's 800p.
Yeah.
Runs things at 30 frames.
I would expect.
So if we can get a little
confusion.
bit better than that, I think people will be happy. I mean, people are super happy with the Steam Deck. Imagine you have all your whole PS5 library: Ghost of Yotei, Last of Us, God of War Ragnarok, Fortnite on the go with your PS Portable.
Yeah,
it could happen. Cool. And with the in-home streaming from PS Portal, that has sold way better than Sony ever thought it would. It sold like, I think, close to 6 million units. I could be wrong. But that's double the Steam Deck right now.
It'd be really cool if they had the app capability too of the PlayStation, because Charlie's going to disagree with me, and I know you can't do anything. The Steam Deck can do everything. But having it native and having it just super easy to access, having your streaming apps like Netflix, Amazon.
You'll also have that on that too.
Yeah. And I know you can do that on the Steam Deck.
And you can also use the Portal to stream from outside your network.
And I know you can do it. Charlie's like, what do you mean you can? I totally get that. But having it on like a header where it's super easy to find for like a dummy like me, where I'm just like, I don't know half the functions of my Steam Deck, so I'm just going to do what I know how to do. But if it's bright red Netflix and I can actually watch it on the PlayStation, that would be actually a seller to me, because you have this giant screen.
Yeah.
Watching the new episode of The Boys would be awesome.
There you go.
I'm just saying. I'm just saying.
If I may, I'll back really close to kind of put a cap on the PS4 thing. This is the quote that Moore's Law was given from a developer that was shared with them from Sony. This was just to developers, and it says in quotes, "We want to share an important update regarding PlayStation Network PSN services for new PS4 title submissions. Starting in spring 26, legacy PSN services will be sunset for new PS4 submissions. That means that any new PS4 title submitted after this date will no longer be able to integrate with the following legacy services." And then it goes into what I listed before, like the events administration, blah, 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 a bunch of different stuff. So they're trying to get people off of PS4. And if they can get to a lower price point, like say 500 or something around that range for the handheld or what have you, or maybe even the PS6, maybe $600-700, if they can get even lower than that, you're going to be able to get those PS4 people over. Because I feel like $500 has priced out a lot of people this generation.
Yeah.
But I think right now that's kind of where we're at right now. I mean, the Switch 2 is going to be, I mean, right now it's $450, the bundle $500. I think there's going to be a price increase soon on the Switch 2 anyway, so it's going to get even more expensive.
Yeah.
So I think that's just where we're at right now.
Yeah. Everything is getting more expensive.
Well, especially seeing as, again, using the video as a reference there, he talks about it being similar in performance to the ROG Ally X. So,
okay, gotcha.
Portable. So
Nice.
Again, comes back to the question that David had, why would I buy it then? Why should we buy the new shiny? And I think that that's a hurdle that more and more people are starting.
Shiny. Duh.
More and more people who are not single males who work at high-paying jobs.
Oh, okay.
That goes back to well, that goes back to our enthusiast discussion. I mean,
that's
this
exactly
is going to
where
be
I was
appealing
going with
to
that.
some people, just not us.
And it's interesting to see. It'll be interesting to see how big of a demographic that shiny object, I call it the shiny object syndrome, and I'm sure many other people do as well, how many people in that demographic are willing or able to shell out the money for the new system, especially in the face of Nintendo's Switch 2 having just come out, and it's a different market sector, but also it's the same market sector, and the Steam Deck and Steam Machine and Steam VR, which is the one I'm really excited about, is the Steam Frame, which we didn't even talk about. That's definitely going to be lower resolution. I do not care. That is VR. That is so much better.
Dude.
They flat out said, hey, by the way, we're taking all of our hardware from the Steam Deck and throwing it on VR. Go for it. And I'm like, okay, that's cool.
And I go for it, dude.
One thing about I'm not going to get a Steam Frame because I do not like VR gaming.
You don't want to play VR chat?
Same.
Real
I tried it. I've tried it a few different times.
I have an Oculus too.
I do not like it, but I am kind of excited about Valve releasing ARM-based hardware.
Yes.
Because hopefully what that'll mean is they'll do all the necessary legwork, and then the community will take over, and I'll start to be able to play more games on my MacBook.
Say it, David, preach it! Because the MacBook's Billy has the same architecture ARM as the frame.
Oh.
Yeah, so if they can they've imported Steam.
Isn't that what cell phones run?
Exactly, that too. So if they can
wait, hang on, how much was your MacBook?
Not mine, it's his.
Then it runs the same thing as my phone?
No.
All right, that's a choice.
So there's a difference between
from 2016. Come on.
Yeah,
man.
there's a difference between the architecture and
I prove your point.
So the main two architectures that we have are ARM for products in general are ARM and x86. So like we've all been talking about stuff like the PS5, the next Xbox, the Steam Deck, all that's x86 based, and the wild variance in processing power and capabilities that all those various things have is the same thing with ARM. You buy a top of the line MacBook with I think they're up to M4 Max now with their chips that they have that are proprietary to Apple. It's not even in the same league as a cell phone. I'm just
teasing you.
People, but I bring it up because people hear ARM and they're
I'm going to make you clarify it.
Yeah, people hear ARM and they're like, oh, you mean like cell phone chips? It's like, no, it's not the same thing as a cell phone
One
chip.
of my favorite things that's ever happened to Macintosh is someone dying. because
That's terrible.
it sounds bad, but it's because Mac used to be my favorite thing ever. I should say Mac, not Apple, Mac. Macintosh used to be, because back when I started gaming for Quake 2, Mac was the way to go because they had physically separate hardware, and you could not put IBM or Windows on Macintosh hardware because it wouldn't work, because they ran this weird side type of hardware. And it is so refreshing. In the last 10 years, I may, if Apple can figure out their not scanning the room every 5 seconds and learning everything about you thing, then I may well go back to being a Mac guy, because I loved that their stuff was so much better designed physically. Their motherboards and their hardware and their ARM architecture was so much better designed than that stuff that Windows and IBM put out, that it wasn't even funny. And at some point, a certain turtleneck wearing person decided they should use the same hardware because it was cheaper. And when that happened is really when Apple's performance peak stopped happening, because at that point you could take any Macintosh, wipe it, and throw Windows on it, or wipe it and throw Linux, and you suddenly have a computer that's 50 times more capable because half the stuff was blocked. The modern ones are moving back to that other style of architecture, and it is so refreshing to see. And that has nothing to do with consoles, but I just wanted to say how much I love that they're doing that.
So
I may go back.
You love it so much they got rid of Tim Cook as CEO.
Sure.
Yeah.
Whatever floats your boat.
But dude,
That's the thing is the the last Intel based Mac was was it
2017.
Yeah, from 2017.
I just helped a student with their MacBook that they purchased refurbished on Amazon, and they couldn't install the latest version of Office because they didn't port it back to the last Intel version. So I had to find an older install, fixed it for her.
Or give them Linux. What?
Yeah, but I'm not doing that.
But yeah, so
they can do that if they want.
I bought the.
I would. It would just take a lot of explaining to the student.
Ubuntu.
So I bought an M1 MacBook Pro, which is basically a couple generations off of the last Intel Mac. So they had the last Intel Mac, then you had the first M1 Macs, and then you had the M1 Pro Max. And so that's what I got. And it's severely outdated by this point. They're up to M4 Max now, which there's the way the M series chips work is you have the regular one that comes out first, then you have the Pro version, then you have the Max version. And usually when they go from the Pro to the Max, the performance jump is so insane that the Max version of the previous generation chip is better than the Pro or the regular version of the next generation chip.
Yeah.
So that's just to say how far outdated my MacBook is now, versus when I bought it back in 2021 or whenever I got it. And it still works.
Yeah, it still works
so beautifully.
Imagine.
I don't have any performance issues with what I use it for, which is for audio production basically. And it works so well. And when I try to do that stuff on this computer, this Windows computer, I run into a lot of issues that I don't run into on the MacBook. It just works.
And that's how Macs originally were designed. Is they're designed to be user-friendly more so than anything else. And again, they kind of went a little too far into that to where you couldn't actually do anything with them. But that is their great advantage, is they're extremely user-friendly. They're very well integrated. And that is why I'm so interested to see these console wars continue, because Microsoft is kind of heading towards that sort of user interface where it's all built in. Unfortunately, they don't have the back-end support to make it work. PlayStation is trying to run something from their system to compete with things like Steam that aren't even designed for the same target sector. So it's going to be really interesting to see if Steam continues down that same path as well, because as we were talking about earlier, much like Apple does, Steam has a lot of integration between their different stuff. It just works. I have the Steam Link on my phone. I have it on my PC. I have it on my Surface Pro 3 will play Cyberpunk 2077. That shouldn't happen. So I'm interested to see what they do with it.
And on that note, I think we're going to end it there. Imagine a future. You guys have any last words? Final words?
I imagine a future where I have last words.
Sure.
Help me, mommy.
So with that, I think we're going to end it there. Thank you, gentlemen, for being here. Really, truly appreciate you.
It's fun.
I imagine in a future, Billy, Charles, David especially. Imagine a future where SteamOS, the ported version, the community-supported version of SteamOS on ARM, you can run SteamOS on your phone, on your M1 Mac. The future is here. Just imagine that in your brain as you walk down the road and you think of, man, everything's expensive, but I can turn my laptop into a server. I can use my M1, potentially get more money out of it down the road. And I can go down the road and look at the sunrise. As I remember how evil Google is. And remember, as you do that, to Snarp Fangle on.
Bye-bye now.